Thank you for bearing with us tonight, this evening. So with that, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass,
I'm here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Here.
Mayor Pate.
I'm here. Commissioner Bass, would you like to lead us in invocation? Mike.
And of mercy, Lord God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord God, for allowing us to be able to serve our community. Father God, we pray that you give us a spirit, oh God, of truth, Lord God, that we would serve in decency and in order, and that you would get the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
All right, so tonight we have some awards and acknowledgments tonight. So I asked the commission, could you join me down on the floor?
Hold on.
When we are called to serve as elected officials, there's no book, there's no guide, there's no roadmap to tell us how we do our job and how we can be effective elected officials for our constituents. Thankfully, we have organizations like the Florida League of Cities who created an institute for elected officials to be able to train us and give us the best practices. It is not always that all elected officials decide to take this route, to learn, to grow, and to become better leaders. But today, we have received certification that 3 of our sitting commissioners, the 2 new ones, have been able to take advantage of that and have completed their first level of training for the Florida League of Elected Officials. So I would like to present these certificates of completions to my colleagues for taking that step to become better leaders for our constituents, our residents, our business owners, and all those who look up to us as leaders here in the city of Opa-locka. So with that, Commissioner Taylor. Vice Mayor Williams. Our reappointed Commissioner Bass has done that her first time go around. So we have all been trained by the Florida League of Cities. So give these a round of applause for being the leaders for that. And I want to especially shout out one of our elected officials who have gone above and beyond in their duties in her private life to where it's been recognized by the school board of Miami-Dade County and also by one of our top schools where my mother graduated from, the Northwestern, and promoting her and stealing her from her current role as an assistant principal at Miami-Jackson. Now she is and will be the vice principal for Miami Northwestern High School. There's some serious bulls around here, y'all. That's a big deal. Thank you. Thank you.
They say bulls for life.
All right, now let's get on to the business of the people. Moving on to approval of consent agenda and pull list. Do I have any pulls, deletions, or deferrals?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Davis,
thank you. I would like to pull number 1, 5, and 6. from consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
no.
I just want to
Madam
note for
Clerk?
the record that we do have a replacement item for replacement resolution for 13-1.
Okay, do we need to vote to put that in or you just acknowledging it?
When we get to 13-1, the city attorney will read the correct title.
Got it. Thank you. All right, so 1, 5, and 6, any other pulls, deletions, or deferrals? All right. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to,
Moved by Commissioner Taylor,
Matter.
and I think it was second by
I'll second.
Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, and moving on to the approval of the agenda. It has come to my attention that 16A1 ordinance has to pass in order for the relevant public hearing items to be moved forward. So is there a will to amend the agenda to bring 16A1 before the ordinance, first reading ordinance, before the planning and zoning?
I'll move it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, moved by Commissioner Davis,
I second it.
second by Commissioner Taylor. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, I'll approve, I have a motion to approve the agenda,
Move it.
moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second,
second by Vice Mayor Williams. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
A motion to approve the regular commission meeting minutes for September 8th, 2021,
Move it.
moved by Commissioner Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, any reports from District 1 or District 2? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any public presentations?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, moving on to citizens forum. Madam Clerk, could you lay out the regulations for citizens forum?
Yes, good evening. City of Opa-locka Commission meetings are held in person at Shabandi Village Auditorium, 215 Purvis Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida. Members of the public wishing to address the commission may do so in person or virtually. Those persons wishing to participate virtually should register prior to the scheduled meeting time on the city's website at www.opalockafl.gov. When speaking before the city commission, please make sure to give your full name and address for the record. There is a 3-minute time limit for public comments. Please adhere to the decorum policy, which is part of the city commission meeting agenda. City commission meetings are aired through live stream at www.youtube.com/user/City of Opa-locka. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any virtual participant.
All right, citizens forum is open.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Cason, retired chief of the great city of Opa-locka. I'll use my Opa-locka address, 781 Curtis Drive. Good evening to each and every one of you and everybody. I'm here to speak on behalf of Florida Department of Law Enforcement. For all intensive purposes, from henceforth, speaking of them, I'll be saying FDLE. FDLE is one of the elite law enforcement fact-finding agencies that acts with transparency, investigates with complete transparency, and let the facts fall where they may. FDLE promotes public safety and strengthens domestic security by providing services in partnership with local, state, and federal criminal justice agencies to prevent, investigate, and solve crimes while protecting Florida citizens and voters. What they investigate? For FDLE, Executive Investigations handles investigations ordered by the governor or conducts complex cases where public officials are suspected of criminal activity. In addition, executive investigators conduct background checks in government agencies, statutory authority that's required. Now, we pay close attention to a lot of these meetings. I listen, and a lot of others. I'm a product of this community. And it's here, it's ringing throughout the community that FDLE is investigating the city of Opa-locka's police department. I want you to know that they investigate criminal activity when they suspect something is going on. They don't just show up. No, there's something that brings them here. So I'm just saying to you all, I know we have a chief of police that I met and I respect highly in this police department, and each one of you, and most of you know me. Okay, stop trying to piss on these people and tell them it's raining. FDLE is here and they're conducting criminal investigations. Please be aware, Mr. Mayor, Commission, you have legal to know what's going on. Don't let nobody continue to sidetrack you. It's here, and very much so. We respect you all. We're looking forward to you taking care of the city, taking care of us as we take care of you. But you'll be seeing a little more of me, and I'm here to help as well. This is our community. Let's save it. Let's not continue to lie and hide because we don't have to. Let's tell the truth. And like I tell the officers and everybody that I talk to, tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. Complete transparency with FDLE, elite department. Thank you.
.540 Sherrod, Chris Roberts. Concerns? Y'all assistant city manager is so disrespectful at every cost. We had a meeting today and he was disrespectful to me. And of course, you know, I disrespected him. I think respect is due to a dog. And when you come off on people on a disrespectful level from the beginning, we have an issue. We stand up, we have a meeting about the homecoming for the kids of Opa-locka. In order to have a meeting with the park director, you have to go through Ellis in order to have the meeting, or he have to sit in on the meeting in order for that meeting to take place. We paying him $85,000 a year. What do we need Ellis to sit there and babysit him for? We need answers, and we need answers right away.
Ms. Roberts, please refrain from names. You gotta address it as a commission, okay?
Oh, okay, that's fine. The other part, or whatever it is, we have assistant director. She don't work past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No Saturdays, no anything. They're on salary. What are we paying them for? And this not personal for me, this business for me. Rather, who have the job, I will say the same thing. When Mr. Brown was having problems, I was doing the same thing. But we have to have transparency. We have to respect each other as individuals, and you have to bring everything to the forefront. We sitting in a meeting and he talking to me like I'm somebody on the street. I talk to him the same way. And anybody know me that what you see is what you get. But you have to learn to respect people and you have to treat people like you want to be treated.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Buzz, and Commission. My name is Dottie Johnson, and I reside at 13724 Northwest 22nd Place. I want to remind you that you really need to, in my opinion, go forward with your charter committee, because in order for it to be a referendum, you're talking about next year, it takes time. I have a handout, it's called the Citizen Bills of Rights. And I strongly suggest, I used to review it once a year just to make sure I'm familiar with what the rights are, but there's some great information in that. I would like to also bring to your attention, and I had to do some research and I was up to 2 o'clock this morning doing my volunteer work. But I found an ordinance that you all approved April 8th of 2020, and it's concerning your procurement code. And in this code, I want you to get a copy from perhaps your clerk, I pulled it offline. And it tells you the authorization that the city manager has. The only way you can change that is to change your charter. So before we get too busy, go back and read that, I strongly suggest. I've seen numerous times that you have deferred agenda items, and really the attorney have given you some opinion, and the conversations continue. That's not good, especially for legal sufficiency. The bus benches, I saw in the contract, but I think I would like to suggest to you to go in there, if something, the trash need to be picked up and how many days it need to be picked up. Specify that information. I think all of your advisory boards need to have goals, annual goals and objectives. I don't see that. Most legislation that is passed by this commission recently limit the citizens' input. That Citizen Bills of Rights tells you, and some of the things that's in that, you actually not doing it, but I got you back and I ain't gonna put it on record. Y'all know my phone number. God bless you. Thank you very much. Go Buzz.
Good evening to you all, Mayor and Honorable Commission. I haven't been up here in about 11 and a half years, so bear with me. Been a police officer in Opa-locka for 13 and a half years. Most recently was promoted to sergeant.
Could you state your name for the record?
Lawrence Harborough, 780 Fisherman Street, Opa-locka Police Department. Anybody that knows me, if I have anything to say, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I will put it in writing and I will sign it. Been a union representative here for years. Someone sent an anonymous email, spelled my name wrong, some other things, and said there were some issues. There was no issue. If you got the copy of my rebuttal email, it's self-explanatory. I just wanted to put it on the record. If you all have it. Do you all have it? Okay, I appreciate your time.
My name is Aisha Gonzalez and 709 Opa-locka Boulevard. I'm here representing my mother, Maribel Gonzalez. I'm her daughter. She doesn't know English, so that's why I am speaking for her. Oh, by the way, I'm 18. I don't know if you guys even know that. But hello, my name is Maribel Gonzalez. I'm a business owner at Opa-locka. My business has been here for 12 years at 709 Opa-locka Boulevard. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm part of a group of residents that are concerned about the Opa-locka Police Department. I don't understand how somebody can be fired at 3 police agencies responsible for 4 deaths and televised on TV, pulling a mentally ill man dragged downstairs with his head hitting every step. Be promoted by the city manager here to a rank of captain. To find out he has now tased and injured a sergeant that has worked in this community for 15 years. There has been many complaints with this captain on reckless driving, the mistreatment to other people by bullying them, and the cops sleeping overnight, not coming quickly enough when emergencies happen. Yet, no changes have been made by the city of this on these issues. It is time the city takes action with the Department of Opa-locka Police Cops and address these problems, as it has become a very serious issue to everyone living in this community. These issues are coming progressively worse for our community. We need more cops that will care about the community and more, and we need to get this situation of this current captain resolved. Please hear me and the community out on this issue. Thank you for your time. I apologize for not being able to speak, as I cannot speak English very well. Have a good evening.
Citizens forum is open. All right, citizens forum is closed. I'll open the floor to my colleague,
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Taylor.
to Ms. Johnson, in regards to the Charter Review Committee, as a sponsor, I'm assuring you that we are working on it and you will see it coming shortly.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I just want to reach out to the resident and the concerns within the police department. Of course, we're currently in collective bargaining. So as a part of those conversations, we also having conversations around policy and looking at ways that we can improve our police department's interaction with the community. We know over the years we've had our challenges, and it's a continual work in progress. But we appreciate your feedback because that ultimately helps us craft what we would like to see as a community from our police. So thank you for those comments. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bass.
I just want to say thank you to all of you who have stood in front of us today to voice your concerns. We hear you. And I always say we hear you because we do hear you. We might not be able to rectify what you're dealing with at that moment, but rest assured that we are doing our part to make sure that you are doing well. And to Ms. Dottie Johnson, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for always stepping up and reminding us to go back. Because sometimes we do need to go back to the past to see, what we have missed, or even so where we don't want to go again. So thank you so much.
Oh, all right. I would like to echo words of Commissioner Bass and my colleagues. Thank you for taking advantage of this time. This is what it's here for, is to be able to bring those concerns to us. And shout out to you, Ms. Gonzalez, for standing up here and addressing us as a commission. I remember my first time doing it too. So continue to do so. We look forward to your leadership in this community and continue to speak out on things that you care for. That's what we need to do as residents. So thank you. All right. There are no other comments. Citizens forum is closed. Moving on to our action items, Madam Attorney, 13.1.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, rejecting all bids received in connection with RFP number 21-082410. Further authorizing the city manager to re-advertise and issue a request for proposals for qualified firms for bus benches, shelters, and trash receptacle advertising and maintenance services, or in the alternative, authorize the city manager to recommend selection of a qualified company, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Taylor. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is a bus bench item that was brought before the commission maybe 3 months ago. We brought a company before you. We end up deferring the item indefinitely. The commission directed us to do an RFP process in lieu of state statute, which does not require a formal RFP process for benches. We did do the RFP process. It was widely advertised. I believe we spent over $5,000 in advertisement in national advertising organizations. We received one bid response, and that company does bunch benches in North Miami. As always, when we get one response for RFP, I typically recommend a reject. But also the caveat with this one is because the state statute specifically exempts bunch benches from an RFP process, I am putting an additional suggestion to not delay this any longer for us to go to nearby communities and locate the companies that do bunch benches there. And based on that, hold a committee and have that committee interview those individuals and bring back a recommendation to the commission. So it's based on the commission's will. If you guys want to, for us to re-advertise the RFP, that's no problem. Or we can go and seek out these organizations, do a formal process and bring it back for the commission for approval.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. The reason why I pulled the item is because, of course, it's a substitute. So that wasn't included in the original language of the legislation. Now looking at the changes, of course, we have that alternative, which is to either RFP or solicit. Given that we've already gone through the RFP process and obviously from a cost benefit perspective, in my opinion, I think we should put it back out simply because, we didn't get a good response last time. And I do recall, I think it was a few vendors that came after the RFP that went out and ultimately discussed that they, knew of opportunities or had opportunities that would ultimately give us more bang for our buck. I would be in favor of, not putting it back out for RFP. Again, this is not, a complicated procurement issue. We're just looking for someone to take over the, those benches and provide that service. So I'll be more in favor of having a manager select a group and then coming back before the commission for approval.
Any other comments? Vice Mayor? Oh.
I can say it fast.
Commissioner Taylor.
I was just gonna say that I agree with my colleagues that I don't think it should have to go out on RFP because we didn't get a lot for it, but I'm in favor of the manager picking the service and we're going from there.
Vice Mayor?
They said it. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so I have a concern about the fact that we continue to have to throw out RFPs and rebid them because of lack of people knowing that they're out there. There's something that in 5 years I've been on this day is like I've not seen it so many times within the past few months. And especially in concern with this bus bench, this is something we've been talking about for over a year. We picked the company. I think it should go through an RFP process. So I do listen, but I see the commission wants to move forward with that because last time we talked, what was presented to us was a company that didn't have their information together and couldn't perform the duties based upon legal issues. And then it was also brought by other people that the amount in terms of advertising dollars and costs was substantially lower than other cities. So we directed the manager to put this out on RFP so that we could get a similar level of service that we see in other cities. So to see that it was put out and now it's being pulled back, I would like to know, first of all, what is going on with our RFPs to where we are not getting the level of engagement that other cities or we have gotten in the past. Like, what's going on and how can that be addressed so that we can get the best service at the best price for the things we need as a community, and there's a competitive bidding process too. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, we have pre-bid meetings and we typically have multiple individuals show up to the pre-bid meetings when we have them. Typically 3 to 5, even more individuals show up to the pre-bid meetings. So typically, when we see people come to the pre-bid meeting, they want information about the program or whatever we are offering through the RFP. They come to the meeting, they register, then they're provided a deadline to provide an application. Most times, if we get a single person to apply, they just not interested in working with Opa-locka. I've seen that. What needs to be realized here, and I guess, we run into it in similar situations. We're in financial emergency. Opa-locka doesn't have the best financial reputation. So I think that is a discouraging factor to some people with these in the RFP process. We've had RFP processes as a recent that we had 3 or 4 responses, and we were able to garner a decision to the commission using the same processes that we're using now. Then you have RFP processes such as financial services that's controversial, bus benches. To be honest with you, I think some of the feedback that I've received in regards to bus benches is vendors are like, why are we applying for RFP when it's not required? And you guys can just list us for, our services. And that is true. I think with this situation, I'm going to personally kind of take ownership of this. It's been an ongoing issue since I've been here. And I'm literally going to go to nearby communities to see who they use for bus benches. And I'm going to solicit them to put in a bid offer. And we're going to have a formal meeting and I'll present the appropriate recommendations to commission, or since this is such a controversial matter, how about I have them present to the commission, everybody that applies, and that makes the process transparent. However the commission's will is, I think we can get this accomplished. There are various factors that affect the RFP process, but there's been situations where we've been very successful as well. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. So the will of the commission is different from this resolution. So we, I guess, vote no on this as if to rebid it, and then it will go into what the manager would say. Or you did read the replacement item?
Substitute item, yeah.
Oh, okay.
13-1.
All right, hold on. Oh, it's a recommend. Okay, got it. You're right, a substitute item. I apologize. All right. So, any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bath,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right. Next item, 6. Two papers up here. All right. Okay, 13-5.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, ratifying FMLA leave for John Pate, City Manager, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the City Attorney.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Teller,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Madam Attorney?
Yes, yes, this item was brought to you at the very last meeting and you wanted to see it come back with more detail and backup. And so it's before you today. This is the FMLA item for leave for Mr. Pate. As you know, it was approved previously by the HR director in January of this year, and this is asking for ratification, which I am requesting that you approve on behalf of Mr. Pate. And I think the resolution pretty much speaks for itself. I won't go through it again since you all did discuss it at the last meeting. Again, you know, my recommendation has nothing to do with the hours and whether the hours are accurate or anything like that. It simply is approving the FMLA leave that was previously, or ratifying the FMLA leave that was previously approved by the HR director. And that was done pursuant to the current policy that the city has, which should be a part of the packet. Happy to answer any questions. Of course, Mr. Pate is here and he can answer any questions that you have. I would just ask that you not discuss his specific medical conditions, and that you purely stick to the issues that are outlined in the resolution. Excuse me, my voice, it's cracking for some reason.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager?
for these next two items, my legal counsel is here to speak on my behalf. So if there's any questions of me in regards to the item.
So you saying you want to call up your attorney?
If there's
to-
any
to speak?
if there's any questions that you guys have in regards to any item, concerns, questions, inquiries to me, he's here to provide information as requested or
And
asked.
that is fine, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. If he wants to come up, in fact, if the mayor would allow it, he can come up right now and speak for Mr. Pate. But the issue is just wanting to have this item brought before you all so that it can be done in a proper fashion. And I've been going back and forth with the attorney. And if the mayor would entertain it, happy to have him speak. If the mayor doesn't feel that that's appropriate, that's fine too.
I would like to hear.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Tushman. I'm a labor and employment attorney. I've been practicing here in South Florida since 1991. And I represent Mr. Pate in this matter. And really, I'm here to answer any questions you might have about Mr. Pate's request for FMLA leave and his request for reasonable accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
So we're on just the FMLA leave right now for the resolution. Thank
Sure.
you.
Understood.
Okay. All right, floor is open for a commission.
May I
I'll start. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Attorney, please direct me if I'm going out of line. Before we vote on this, me personally, I would like to know none of our manager's personal business as it relates to his health or whatever, but I would like to know if there is any documentation from his physician saying that this is necessary.
Yes, there is. So when this request was made back in, I believe, January, pursuant to the policy of the city and in accordance with the Family Medical Leave Act, the city obtained medical certification from Mr. Pate's physician outlining exactly what the recommendation was from the physician as to the need for Family Medical Leave Act leave. And the recommendation was intermittent leave, meaning on an as-needed basis when Mr. Pate's condition flared up. And the details of that are set forth in the certification.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, I have a few questions. When was, Mr. Pate, when was this request for FMLA brought to the attention of their supervisors?
Mr. Mayor, per policy, my medical information was submitted to the HR department for processing and approval, and they submitted the appropriate approval. I made notification with you all in a correspondence, assuming that you all had knowledge of it, which I found out you did not. But my actions was pursuant, again, to the city's policy, and I did that appropriately.
Okay, so when exactly was the commission, the supervisors made aware that our appointed official employee was on FMLA intermediate leave? When were we made aware?
Mr. Mayor, you do not have a policy stating that any medical information regarding FMLA is brought to the city commission. Again, I'm not going to change my statement and what I'm saying. Things were done within policy. And I don't have anything further to say about that specific question. Thank you.
I would just add, if I might, that when Ms. Norris Weeks, I think, brought to Mr. Pate's attention that the city commission felt this issue needed to be brought to the city commission's attention, I worked with Ms. Norris Weeks, to provide the information that she believed was necessary to substantiate the need for the FMLA leave, the fact that it had been approved by the HR director previously, the amount of leave taken, and we've been going back and forth, as Ms. Norris Weeks has said, for some time now, since really, I think, about May, to get the information to her that she needed to validate the need for the FMLA.
Okay, so as supervisors of the manager, is it within FMLA policy that supervisors are not made aware of an employee taking FMLA leave?
So I think that's really a matter of whatever the city's policy is. I don't think the FMLA, mandates any particular policy in the context of a city commission. I don't believe the FMLA regulations address that.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Madam
So your specific policy doesn't deal with how you address the manager. And so I do want to make one correction to council that, I made no, he wasn't giving me information for me to make a decision on anything. So I didn't. Simply what I suggested was that this would come to the commission. I know some of you had some concerns based on an email that's a part of the packet and not knowing about it. And so we thought there should be some kind of a formal presentation of sorts for you all to be aware of it and ratify it. And so my involvement with this has nothing to do with approving it or getting enough information to approve it. It's just basically getting enough information to put before you all so that you can then ratify the decision that had been made in January. So with respect to, you have what I have. Basically, what I've received a day or two before the last meeting is the backup regarding what has been used so far. What we've been trying to get to is a couple of questions. One is, how is the leave kept, which we found out prior to the last meeting, and how much leave has been taken to date, because you don't get an infinite amount of FMLA leave. You get so many, hours a year, and that's in the, in the resolution. And so the idea was to give you all as much information as you were requesting at the last meeting as we could get, so that you have before you some understanding of what's been done to date. So again, for this particular item, I am recommending that you approve the HR director's not so much the hours. You can talk about that in any way you want to, But in terms of the ratification of the issue of granting the FMLA leave, I think that is kind of standard. I think you should do it. There's no specific policy with respect to Mr. Pate, who reports to all of you. And because of that, I think to err on the side of just being very cautious and making sure that you're not, violating his rights in that respect is what you want to do. Now, if you have questions about the amounts and those kind of things, Mr. Pate is here, his attorney's here, and you may want to have those questions, but please do know that that's a different issue than ratifying the FMLA leave itself. So with that, I'll stop talking, but I just wanted to make sure the record is clear on that.
Mr. Mayor.
So, hold on, it's just 'cause, I just wanted to be clear. I'm going to ratify this decision of the HR director. I wanted to be clear about how that's supposed to work. And then two, also, we've been put in this position, and for the longest time, we were not aware. So I think that is a challenge. So my next thing is the HR director here to speak about this?
No, she's not here. She's not available to be here to speak. No.
Interesting. Okay. And it's helped me understand just FMLA requirements. Is Mr. Manager, how was this letter transmitted to you on this January 28th letter?
It was given to me in person.
So in person, this letter was given to you in person. So it wasn't emailed.
No,
That was given to you in person.
no. But my request was emailed and it's date and timestamp when I sent it to the HR department with
Okay.
my medical information.
Okay. All right. And just help me understand the laws around with FMLA. Is it paid leave?
The FMLA does not mandate that it be paid, so it can be unpaid leave.
So it can be, or it is?
Well, it can be paid leave. It doesn't, the FMLA doesn't prohibit that, but it does not mandate that the leave be paid. So it can be unpaid.
Okay. So what is our policy? Do we pay full working time for FMLA leave?
Well, we do not. What Mr. Pate has, that's a little bit, different, but is appropriate for FMLA is he has something called intermittent FMLA. So he may not be out for an entire day. Maybe he's on FMLA or utilizing FMLA for half a day as needed. So, but generally speaking, for the city, it is unpaid.
That's not true. That's
Okay,
not true.
well, if I'm, well, you do
Contrary
have
to
the,
the
you do have
policy.
the policy as backup to your, and so what I mean by that is what the city of Opa-locka does is it requires the usage of sick leave first. And then, and I guess from that standpoint, that's what you mean, it's paid, I guess. That's what you're saying, because it's sick leave. And then if
When
once
you use
sick leave is exhausted,
then you use your
then
vacation leave.
vacation leave can be used. So I guess if that's
Right.
what you mean.
And
Okay. But
I'm sorry.
generally speaking, I mean, okay, I don't want to split hairs, but you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean, that is consistent with, I think, the FMLA, which is to say the FMLA is explicit that the employer can allow the employee to use accrued vacation or accrued sick time or accrued paid time off concurrently with the FMLA leave, so that at least initially the FMLA leave is paid. And then once the employee exhausts the paid time off, the FMLA leave can be unpaid.
Okay, so help me understand. So if sick and vacation leave is taken, then that's noted as FMLA leave
It can-
after the fact?
It can run concurrently, yes. So if the employee has a need for FMLA leave and has built up accrued paid time off, the employer can allow the employee to use the accrued paid time off while he's taking FMLA leave so that he's paid during that time off.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Oh,
Vice
Mr.
Mayor?
Manager? Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Vice. Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is for Madam City Attorney. The supporting documents in our agenda item, where do they come from? Who placed them here?
Are the one that says at the very top of it, memorandum to me from Ms. Kara Ward, that is September 2nd. This is a part of it. This is what I was given as backup. And she attached to her memorandum the current policy, which outlines what was just said, giving the amount of hours, at least 1,250 hours during the 12-month period and up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave in a 12-month period. But it also states in paragraph 4, as you can see, that the employee must use his or her sick leave benefit for any part of the 12-week period. And then when that's exhausted, then the permission to convert to annual leave to sick leave. So that is a part of the packet. That's from Ms. Kira Ward. Also, there's another document that has the amount of hours to date and to that date. And that is behind that. And that gives a breakdown of the annual banked, personal sick, vacation, and total FMLA hours used up to that time and what's remaining. And then there's another document that stated January the 28th, 2021. This is also from Ms. Kira Ward, and that's the initial document that she provided to Mr. Pate, stating what the terms were of the FMLA leave and what's permitted. There is an email which appears to be the first time that it appeared, I guess, in the system with respect. This is where Mr. Pate is writing to everybody in April of this year. This comes from Mr. Pate to all of you and to some of his staff about the FMLA leave for the first time. The next thing that you have is another memorandum. This is written from Ms. Shemeka Lawson to me. This is as a request for the accounting of leave time. And this is Ms. Lawson letting, really you all know, but through me, letting it be known how the leave is kept. That had been one of the questions that some of you had once you found out about the leave. You wanted to know how it was kept. And this is basically stating that she is managing that leave, and he gives the leave to her, she manages it, and she puts it in the ADP system for the city. And then after that is the law on the area, section 825.500. This deals with FMLA, what is required, what's covered, what the city's responsibilities are in terms of maintaining documents. And that is also a part of the backup. So that completes the backup that you have for your consideration.
Thank you. So I think my question was, who approved these documents? Because I know sometimes the manager's office says that it's on the attorney's office, and then I know vice versa, it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I'm confused, because just like you said, Madam Attorney, there are documentation from that says things were approved, dated from September 2nd, documentation dated January 28th that it's approved. Yet, and then I see an email behind a memo that is disturbing to me. But yet, last commission meeting, I placed on record, I'm saying this because I need to put this on record. Talk about transparency. I talked about, and I asked the commission to do a public records request of my email. And I would have thought that my email would have been placed as documentation from whoever decided to put this in as documentation, especially if we have an email that's concerning the mayor. However, my request for a public record. So in other words, what I'm saying is FMLA was approved on January 28th, but on June 16th, that's a big window. It's approved January 28th, but on June 16th, which unfortunately my colleagues don't see this email, I requested a public records request for information pertaining to FMLA documentation. The approval, I did not ask for medical documentation. My response that I received from our HR director was due to HIPAA restrictions. I am unable to provide medical documentations for employees. However, I will defer to the city attorney's office. And then it went on and on and on. And all these other people were attached to one email that I sent to our aide asking for a public records documentation. More and more people got attached to this email. But here's where I'm confused. It was approved January 28th. And I asked June 16th. And I was told that I'm violating HIPAA, but I didn't ask for medical documentation. I asked for who approved it. Okay, but that email's not here. And I know why it's not here. Okay, but we'll continue. Then this says, but it's the spirit of transparency. Okay, this says, according to Mr. Attorney, it is the employer's obligation to keep track of Mr. Pate's FMLA leave. How can we keep track of it when I asked in June and it was approved in January and we didn't know? But I asked about it in June and I still didn't get a specific answer. So things are just kind of convoluted right now because I asked about it in June.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted that on record. That's all. I just wanted that.
Mr.
on record.
Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
first, there was a series of emails sent today with all emails that Mayor Paget requested in regards to the terms of FMLA, sick leave, and various other terms. Those items were sent to the commission. I don't know if it's included in the IT search or not, but we did all search specifications for emails. So there was no intentional omission of an item not being in a packet. And several stacks of emails were emailed to the commission based on transparency today with all the information that the mayor requested. So that was sent today. So I don't know if you received that email.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm talking about what's here, not what was received or went in through email. What's here for me to read, what's here for the commission to make an educated decision by. The only email that's in our booklet, the only email in our booklet is an email that really doesn't even, it doesn't really even talk about FMLA. It just talks about job performance. But the one email, and Madam Attorney, because we can do a public records request. The one email that probably came, and I'm going to say that I was the very first person on this dais to ask about FMLA, and I didn't get an answer. I got pushed to the side. But to know that months earlier, it was approved. So why didn't our HR director it was approved?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager, Vice Mayor has the floor, Commissioner Taylor. So when she releases the floor, I'll go to you.
Mr. Mayor.
Manager.
For the record, since we're putting things on the record, myself and the Assistant City Manager had a private meeting with Vice Mayor in regards to the FMLA situation. I'm not going to disclose the full conversation, but we did have a conversation in regards to FMLA, her concerns. I even told her I didn't have a problem with her necessarily seeing my medical certification if things were whited out or blocked out. I told her there was no conspiracy theory. Secondly, in January, we were in a pandemic and working from home in January to June of this year. So there's nobody trying to hold any wool over the eyes. These theatrics that's up here over this sensitive item, I think is not necessary. This is a sensitive item. This is my livelihood. This is a very sensitive item. And there's debate back and forth when I've had conversations with each one of you, except the mayor this week in regards to it. And then we get up here today and throwing this out there like I'm some horrible person. And I've had a personal conversation with every one of you this week in regards to the item, as if I prep anybody for any other agenda item and ask you to answer any questions. I was told by an individual they had to ask the attorney for their decision. So if you want to talk about transparency and throwing people out there, that's not necessary. This is my livelihood. This is mentally crushing to me. I have significant issues, and this is being treated as if this is a theatric show. Something so sensitive. And some of us are professionals up here that work in other organizations other than the city of Opa-locka. And this is just amazing.
Are you done? Christian? All right. Let me be very clear with this.
Madam Vice Mayor, you're insulting me right now.
Wait.
Mr. Mayor, I wanna call for the question.
Wait.
Can we call for the question, Mr. Mayor?
Point of order.
Can we call for the question? This is going left. We're questioning our manager about his sick leave. It's not right. And if all of us, we all have jobs, and we wouldn't like it if our boss, we asked for sick leave and our boss questioned us. So we're swimming in murky water right now. And we're here to support our citizens. So I'm asking that we call for the question, please. So that's my motion on the floor, Mr. Mayor. That we vote on this item and end this discussion.
Is there a second? Any second, Madam Attorney?
Yes, you would, if you have a call for the question, you would vote on whether you call for the question.
All right. Do we have no discussion on the motion to call for a question? It just needs to go to second, because I definitely got some, after what the manager said, I got something I want to say. So does that mean we can completely end the conversation and call for a vote on the question? Because I think it required a second.
I second the motion.
Okay. All right, so we need 2/3 in order to cut off discussion. Madam Attorney, Madam Clerk, please do a roll call on whether or not to cut off the debate and call for the question.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes. I'm sorry? Yes, please.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams?
No.
Mayor Pike?
No.
Motion passes 3-2.
We'll vote on the item. Oh, hold up. 2/3. Is that 2/3 of the commission?
That's the majority.
That's the majority, Mr. Mayor.
I think to cut off debate.
It does take 2/3
2/3.
of the voting members in favor to cut off debate.
Is that 2/3?
we seriously gonna debate on this
2/3.
man's time like this?
All right, so
No, y'all,
I
that-
think
that's not right.
2/3 is, yeah, 66% or something like that.
Right.
So that means it failed. I'm going to say this, though. I want to be very clear about this. We have a duty as a commission to be transparent and accountable. And without accountability, things can go and become a liability. And I want us to be very clear about this. We, as a commission, did not know. We did not know. The email that's in this packet is an email that was sent April 23rd, after I had to do public record requests to find out about why the manager was not showing up. After repeated requests. And in this April 23rd email, that's when we were first made aware, and this is after we called for termination, was when we first were made aware as a commission of anything to do with FMLA. I did a public records request asking for accounting of leave time. FMLA was not mentioned in any of those records. So I am going to vote in support of moving and of ratifying this. I think it's very important that we are transparent and accountable. And we deserve that from our manager. Each one of us deserves that from our manager. And the way this has been going about, it has not been transparent and limits our ability to hold people accountable. This legislation says it is our duty as a city to keep these records and to make sure this is on point. And I want to make sure that the HR department under the manager is doing that duty as laid out in FMLA. And that we as a commission are very clear about what this means. We received very little guidance about how to deal with this situation until it becomes a problem and attorneys get involved. And we deserve to have that level of guidance and transparency so that we all can do our jobs. So that is the reason why this conversation is taking place. It is not personal, it's not challenged. I want to make sure it's very clear. We have a duty here to do as a body. And as mayor of this city, I will make sure that these policies and procedures and things are in place and we have a transparent and accountable government. That's what I ran on, and that's what I'm going to be about. So that is all I have to say in regards to this. Any other discussion? All right,
Mr. Mayor,
Madam Clerk, Commissioner Davis.
well, since we open up, the box for discussion and we want to discuss ours, the manager situation specifically, I'm gonna just say this. FMLA is not the law you want to attack. Neither is ADA. I personally taken classes on employment law. And if you know anything about those laws, that's not the battle that you want to take on. I understand transparency. I think nobody has been as loud about policies and procedures on this day as me and you for the period of time we have been elected. I'm gonna say this. FMLA and ADA, those are two laws that you don't want to mess with. And to be quite frank, I think our residents would much rather us debate, more pressing issues within this city. So, I hear the concerns about, transparency, and I do think going forward, we need to have a clear and transparent process. But obviously, the recommendation has been put forth by the attorney. And I mean, it can't get any clearer than that. So I'm gonna just leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Yes, so again, putting on record, my vote is for FMLA when we do vote. But I wanted to put on record that my email that I requested, that I mentioned last meeting, was not placed in this book. Now, one thing I know is I know the laws, FMLA, and I also know ADA. I don't think I would have got into my level, Mr. Manager, if I didn't know them. It is required that I know them. However, my email is what I asked. I understand some of us are up here campaigning, but my point of it is I asked a question the last meeting about the email, and it was not placed here. So that's my point. That's my point. I just wanted to make sure we were transparent. We can call a vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Attorney.
Yes, if I may, I just want to just reiterate what I said at the last meeting. You all need to figure out how to meet the other guidelines that you have as federal guidelines under the FMLA law. Now, I tried to be very specific. I put it in your packet, in the resolution, so that it's clear. But somebody at some point, I don't know if you want to do it through a workshop or have Mr. Pate's staff make a presentation. And I'm not talking about Mr. Pate's situation. I'm talking about just making sure that you're in compliance with 29 CFR 825.500, which provides all of the things that are set out in that last whereas clause on the first page of your resolution. And it goes on to the second page. There are 7 very specific things that the city is required to do, to keep, to maintain in terms of records. I don't know that that is necessarily happening right now, but if it's not happening, it needs to happen. And so that is, I bring this up because I think, as I suggested to you all the last time, you really do need a process for how you're going to deal with these issues so that we are compliant with the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney, for letting us know that we do have to do this instead of just sweeping it under the rug. Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Commissioner Bath,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pike,
Yes.
motion passes.
13-6.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving or denying an ADA reasonable accommodation request from John Pate, City Manager, providing for Incorporation recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the City Attorney.
You have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Davis. Second by Commissioner Taylor. Madam Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. As you know, Mr. Pate has asked for the ADA leave. This was, you all know that he previously requested the FMLA, which has now been approved. And authorization of FDLA leave allows for Mr. Pate, just so you know, not to work at all while he is on FMLA, whereas ADA would allow him to work from home when he is able to and not take the FMLA leave, which is limited to 12 weeks per year. On August the 3rd, Mr. Pate emailed a request to the City Commission and others requesting a reasonable accommodation related to an upcoming procedure that he has during the month of, that he had during the month of August. That has now been rescheduled to December. And now Mr. Pate is requesting that he be allowed to work from home for approximately 14 days to recover after that anticipated procedure in December. He can tell you what the exact dates are for that leave and what that 14 days would entail. In addition to that, Mr. Pate's attorney, who's standing before you, had also sent an email asking that he be permitted to work from home on an, I guess, an indefinite basis when he is unable to work in the office due to flare-ups of his condition. And so that was his general request. So there are two different things before you today, and it's for either approval or denial. You are not obligated to do one or the other. And when the city does have a reasonable accommodation that it already provides, the city does not require an employer to provide paid leave beyond what it provides as a part of a paid leave policy. So you do have FMLA leave in place. Also, as to the case with all other requests for accommodation, an employer can deny requests for leave when it can show that providing the accommodation would impose an undue hardship on its operations or finances. Finally, as a general rule, the individual with a disability must inform the employer that an accommodation is needed, which Mr. Pate has done. When an employee requests leave for a medical condition, the employer must treat the request as one for a reasonable accommodation under ADA unless the leave can be addressed by an employer's leave program, such as FMLA or a similar state or local law. So this one is not, you can have some discussion about this. You can have some discussion with Mr. Pate or his attorney about this, and then you can make, based on your, what you believe is in the best interest of the city, you can make a determination about about two different things. So he's asking first for the 14-day leave, and then if you can approve or deny that, and then he's also asking for the reasonable accommodation leave just in general to be able to use that when he is unable to work due to flare-ups of his condition. That concludes my presentation.
Madam Attorney, can we approve the request after the procedure in December and deny the second one?
That is your choice. Yes, sir.
And what do we understand you said as something to deal with undue hardship? Does that apply to the second?
If you, in your discretion, it could apply to the second.
Okay.
And I'm encouraging you all to have some discussion about it, possibly with Mr. Pate, and determine what you all believe as a unit
Okay.
before making that decision.
As the floor is open for discussion.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you, sir.
I just wanted to see if colleagues had anything before speak about the second.
I have a question. I see here in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whereas, where it says reasonable accommodation does not require an employer to provide paid leave beyond what it provides as a part of its paid leave policy. Is the specific request for the ADA accommodation, does it also include paid compensation while taking such time, or is it?
Well, no, what this specifically means, that particular provision, it just means that if you already have something in place, it does not require that an employer provide paid leave beyond whatever you already have in place as a leave policy. So you already have a leave policy in place with your FMLA. And so if you decided that you don't feel that this would be appropriate, you could make that decision based upon the fact that you already have something in place. This is the federal law dealing with this issue. So that is completely within the discretion of the commission.
May I address this? 'Cause I think there's a little bit of confusion as to that particular whereas clause. This request for an ADA accommodation is not a request for leave at all. At all. Mr. Pate has been approved for FMLA leave. That's kind of, and frankly, I think that was the appropriate thing to do. He's eligible, he's qualified, he produced certification. That's a cut and dried issue. This request for ADA accommodation is not a request for leave from work. It's a request to be able to work from home when he would otherwise be on leave, when he would otherwise be unable to report to work because of a flare-up of his medical condition. Mr. Pate wants the ability to work remotely, as he's been doing during the pandemic. And I think he's been doing effectively, and is able, and he's able to do his job remotely. So that's why I say it's a bit of a red herring, this idea of paid leave. He's not asking for leave in the context of this ADA accommodation. He's simply asking for the ability to work from home when necessary because of his medical condition. And there are two aspects where that would happen. One would be where his condition flares up and he would otherwise have to stay home and take FMLA leave, which means he's not working, right? And then the other situation is after his surgery when he's recuperating and he can't report to work. So I hope that clarifies.
Right,
Yes.
and I just want to
Yes,
be clear, under the law, because this comes specifically from the federal law, that if an employer has another paid leave policy, and I'm talking about ADA. So if you're considering ADA, but the employer has another paid leave policy like FMLA or like some other type of leave policy, then that can be considered as a reason, as a reason that you may decide you may not want to approve the leave or not. So I'm not advocating for or against, but what I am saying is that can be considered, and that is the law. You can consider that.
I'm sorry, but I would just respectfully disagree in
Okay.
the sense that this is not a request for leave. If Mr.
No,
Pate-
I'm not saying that it is, sir. I'm saying that that can be, the FMLA can be considered. It is not, this is a reasonable accommodation. This is an ADA reasonable accommodation. But as a part of what the commission can consider is whether you have other vehicles that may be available. Let's not call it leave. Other vehicles that may be available like FMLA. And I am correct on that. I've researched it and I know I'm correct on that. So, that is the law.
I just want to be clear, he's not requesting leave, so.
Yeah, I understand. I'm saying,
Right,
but if
okay.
you have other things that are available, I don't think you can disagree with me on that. I'm not advocating
ma-
for it one way or the other. I'm just telling the commission what the law is.
Thank you.
Madam Attorney, may
Commissioner
I?
Davis.
Thank you. I mean, I'm full aware of accommodations and that process. I'm a special education teacher by trade, so I literally deal with this on a daily and couldn't imagine, my student or, any qualified, person that's requesting accommodation, not being afforded that opportunity in this country. But I guess, I mean, I don't have a problem with the accommodation. I mean, I think we were all a little bit concerned about the time. But I know, at least from my perspective, being that, time isn't necessarily an issue, it's just a request to, have accommodation when, his condition becomes, when it becomes a need for it.
And if I may address the
Hold-
timing.
Hold on,
aspect.
sir.
I'm sorry,
Are you finished, Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
I apologize. If I may address the timing concern, because I think Ms. Norris Weeks expressed a similar concern in one of my conversations with her. I mean, to be clear, Mr. Pate is not asking for this request to extend indefinitely into the future. The request would be for a period of time that he's eligible for intermittent FMLA leave. And the city, without going into the details of what the FMLA provides, the city has rights to ask Mr. Pate to recertify his need for FMLA leave if at appropriate intervals. And if his physician determines he's no longer qualified for FMLA leave, the city could deny the request for FMLA leave. And correspondingly, this ADA request would no longer be applicable. But the request is, to be clear, a request that instead of having him take leave from work, where he's literally at home, not able to work, allow him to work remotely, as he's been doing during the pandemic, as many other city employees have been doing, and I think doing effectively. I'm not here, obviously, but that's our position.
What is the period of the intermittent FMLA leave?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the leave was approved in January. Typically, recertification is done every calendar year unless the employer requests one sooner. So this essentially would expire in January, and I would require no new recertification in January. And just to be clear, because I did add, there was some questions about this yesterday during my briefing.
Speaking to the mic a little more.
I'm sorry, to be clear, there were some questions yesterday during my briefings in regards to the matter, because the legislation wasn't clear about how many days I will work from home and how long it will last and various different things like that. We didn't write the legislation, so I was not able to answer that. But what it would be concurrent to the FMLA. So basically, if I have a flare up, if it's intermittent, it says 2 or 3 days or 2 days, that is what it would be per week if I have a flare up. And also, to make noteworthy, if you check my communications, when I've been sick, on vacation, I've worked, I've sent correspondence, I've held meetings. I can show you all of that. The key here is, because this is FMLA and because we're at this juncture, if ADA is not approved and I'm on FMLA, I cannot work. I can't respond to an email, a phone call, or anything. So if I'm down for 2 or 3 days, I cannot respond to anything, do any work or anything. I just want to still be a productive employee of the city. That's all I'm asking to do, which is my right as a person. So that's where it is. So it would be pretty much like the attorney said, run concurrent with my FMLA leave, which will expire in January. That's 1 calendar year. I would recertify and it will start up again. And then hopefully at this time, the commission will have policies in place and I'm able to submit appropriately, whoever that may be, with the commission receiving notification. And maybe it has to be a resolution again next year. I don't know, but that's that is what will occur.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I just want to put on the record that, you know, and I feel like I kind of have to. We asked for information, so there was no issue of trying to put something together where we're trying to hold back information. In fact, you all were talking, there was something said about earlier about you all received information today. We did not receive whatever information you even have. So we have asked for information. We have sent email. We have tried to follow up the best that we can. We've talked to the attorney. We tried to get it from him. We tried to get it from the manager. We tried to get, so it's not something where we have not, you know, we've been holding back. And I just want to make sure that, at least from my standpoint, you know, we make that very clear for the record. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney, because that's been the biggest issue, is that understanding this and being transparent about what is going on, when it's happening. Those are the most challenging things with this situation. That's why it's a challenge, because our city manager is the CEO of this city. He is the leader of all of our employees. And it's very important to be present as a leader of this city. So I'm all for approving the accommodations after the procedures, and completely in support of that. And I do believe that during that time, if you're out, like, take care like of yourself. Like, I don't think work should be involved when you on vacation or sick or personal. Like, step back. Like, I really believe that it's important to not work when you're on your personal time, no matter what it is, sick, vacation, no matter whatever. And I've always said that to the manager, always. The second part is being able to work from home whenever there's a flare up. And that's what I've been unaware of when will the manager be in the city and when he's working from home, or whether or not he's on or off. That's the challenge that I've had with this situation and with this second item. So with this second item, we're saying that he will work from home during a flare-up. So how will we know? Are we gonna be notified each time that happens? Like, how would that work?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. First, in the emails that you all received today, 90% of the time, if not all of the time, when I worked from home, I sent an email saying I was working from home.
That is not true.
Well, the emails that say it. So, and if you have any information on that, let me know. And then I was told by somebody on his days to stop sending emails saying I was working from home. I'm an executive of the city. As long as I'm working and being productive, that should be all that matters. See, the issue I have here is there needs to be policy. I work for 5 people that have 5 different personalities, 5 different ways of doing things. There's not even a clear way, while we're talking about ADA, there's not even a clear way for me to take time off work. And I discussed that at the last meeting. How do I take time off work? Other than send you guys an email saying I'm off. And what if 3 of you all say no and 2 of you all say yes? Like, there's no even scenario for that. But you guys have been okay with your appointed people sending emails saying you're out, either most times without a response, and you guys trusted us to do the job. Like, I understand, there are some perceptions out there in regards to me working from home and not being in the city, but I can show you my documentation, my performance, my meeting schedules will prove during the pandemic, after the pandemic, if I worked from home, I sent emails. If I was on vacation, I said I'm on vacation. And there's days I said I'm on vacation and I end up having to work because I end up having meetings that I had to attend that I had no coverage to cover. And so, Mr. Mayor, I respect what you're saying. When you have time off, take the time off. That's hard as a CEO to tell the CEO, hey, when you're off, be off. That's difficult to do, especially in this city. So, I mean, like I said, there's no trickery tied to this at all whatsoever. None. And if you guys say tonight you want me to continue, if I have flare-ups and you want an email saying every day I'm working from home, I have no problem saying that. If that's the consensus, say that. And I would say it's in the email, working from home, working from home, working from home. This is days I'm working from home. These are days I'm in the office this week. If you guys want a calendar, I can give you that. I need a consensus. I need 5 of you all to give me a consensus of what you all want me to do. Because right now I'm getting different answers. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Praggett?
Commissioner Bass?
To the manager, respectfully, again, please guide me, Madam Attorney, if I'm going the wrong way.
Speaking to the mic.
I'm trying to, find the correct words without crossing the line. As it relates to your flare-ups. Again, please correct me if I'm not using, okay. How often or how many days a week do you think, or not think, know that maybe is a possibility that you will be able to be in the office based on past, experiences of your situation?
2 to 3 days a week, but mostly 3 days a week. And if I have a flare up, I'll make notification. I am having a flare up. If I'm taking an FMLA day with pay, hey, I'm taking an FMLA day, I'm unavailable. I can do that too. I just need you all to the biggest challenge I've had since I've been here, and I'm being very sincere, is I just need you all as a body to tell me what to do and how to do it. And attendance is a very difficult thing. You can go to other cities. Attendance with city managers is a complicated issue when they work for multiple people. Unless you have a policy in place saying you send leave requests to a specific person to do it. Some cities, it's a specific commissioner that leave requests go to, and they approve or deny it. Okay, well, the commissioner is assigned. Some of it is the HR department. The commission leaves it on the HR department to monitor the time of the city manager. Our policies with FMLA says file it with the director of human resources. If the policy is changed to say send notification to the city, that's fine. I don't think you guys had a lot of appointed officials like that to understand. Like, people may not have the same similar circumstances. I'm just trying to do what's right and what's order, because I get, as an individual, it gets very stressful when people make allegations about you and say you're doing things wrong and you're not doing things right, and then you're hearing different things from different people, and then you don't know what to listen to, who to listen to, what guidance to take. If I take this person's guidance, what is this person going to do? This is complicated. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry for my long diatribe, but that's all I have to say.
So your answer to the question was 2 to 3 days a week. You may have a flare up.
No, 2 to 3 days a week, I may be in the office. That's what I said. She asked me how many days I will be in the office. 3 days a week. There may be weeks I have a perfect week and I'm in the office the whole week.
Okay. So you've been taking off 2 to 3 days, or been out of the office 2 or 3 days a week for this whole year.
We were in pandemic mode until June.
Okay.
The pandemic started last year.
Well, since June.
Yes, off and on. And I had some emails were sent, and then I was told to stop sending emails.
So, but you've been here in the office for 3 days out, 2 to 3 days out the week since June.
At least 2 days.
Okay. And a full day of work from what time?
There's no definition for executive what a full day of work is. And that's not defined in my contract or anywhere. But I do work a significant amount of time. And I do have meetings outside the office as well. And I do have my calendar that's available to show all the meetings that I have.
Okay. All right. So what's the will of the commission? I said I would recommend the approval of the first one. And the second one, I think that it's important that a manager takes time off during those times. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, understand me being out of office will lead to inefficiency of functions in the city.
Speaking to the mic.
I said, understand me being out the office on FMLA and not being available will lead to inefficiencies in the city. So you're willing to deal with that potentially 2 or 3 days a week where there's inefficiencies of operations where people cannot contact me. Because we're at this point, is this serious? So I don't want to violate any policies, procedures, or anything. So if I'm on FMLA, I'm not available. My phone is off. I'm not available. I'm not returning emails. It could be 2 or 3 days a week. And, I have time to take. So I don't want to put the city in a position where I'm not available. So there's 2 sides of the coin here.
I would much rather, just personally, speak for my colleague, you can share, that you take your time. Like, take your time and get healthy, get right, do what you got to do. That's what a assistant city manager is for. That's what all these other directors are for. Take your time.
And I have your full support.
And that's what I would prefer, because already, the reason why this is brought up is because of lack of inefficiencies. There's a lot of reports that we sit up there and ask for that has not been provided. The requests that haven't been provided. So there have been things. We've had commission meetings where the items are just all over the place. There have been many instances that you can clearly review this record on these commission meetings to show that things have not been operating as optimally as normal cities. So that is part of this conversation, is why we're having this conversation, because it's a challenge when our number one, and we as a commission, the manager does everything. Like everything. It's the manager's office. We have to go through the manager's office for everything. The manager is responsible for everything. So that's why this is so important, because of that. And I personally would much rather take your time. Like that's what I personally have, and let that be reflected in FMLA, whatever leave, whatever that is. Let that be reflected so that we're just very clear about this. So that's what is the will of the rest of the commission?
May I address the commission on your last point, Mr. Mayor?
Feel free, sir.
I mean, with respect, I envision a situation where the problems that you just laid out, or your concerns, are really going to be exacerbated, because you're going to, in essence, if you deny this request to allow Mr. Pate to work from home, you're going to force him to take FMLA leave when he's not able to come into work, which means he's not working, which means the lack of responsiveness that you just alluded to is just going to get worse and worse. And the commission is going to grow increasingly frustrated with Mr. Pate, I fear. And it's going to hold that against Mr. Pate. And frankly, you're not allowed to hold that against Mr. Pate because he's on FMLA leave. So I'm concerned that the denial of this request is going to sort of force.
Mr. Attorney, I think at this point, this is not something that I would have you making a representation to my client on. I think you're here to speak for Mr. Pate, and you've done that. And at this point, I think you're crossing a line, and I'd ask that you refrain from giving my client legal advice. Thank you.
Floor is open. Everyone state how we're going to move on this situation. We have to vote on it.
Let's vote.
But so the vote, but there's two different items on here. Yeah, there's two different approvals and denials. So literally, if you look at section 2, on page 259 of the recitals, there's an approval deny request for the December timeframe of 14 days after the procedure. And then there is approval on whether or not he can work from home and during that 14-day, and also whenever he has flare-ups. So those are two different things. So that's why I said I'm completely okay with the first. Completely okay with the first. There's no issue with that at all. The second is whether or not, in this thing, he can take the time whenever there's a flare-up. And he still works, and then he decides whether or not he's going to take FMLA or vacation during some times of flare-up, and whether he would work from home during that time. And that would be completely in his decision-making authority to do. And all he has to say is, I'm working from home, and that's it. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
Your representation will be correct.
All right, thank you. So that's why I'm asking. I'm not in support of the second one.
Mr.
So
Mayor.
that's why I'm asking for the
Yeah.
rest of my colleagues.
No, I agree with you on that. I do believe that, we should grant Mr. Pate the reasonable accommodation, provided that it's, supported by a physician's opinion. However, I do, and as well as the 14 days in December to recover from surgery. I do believe that granting him the ability to take, I guess, not really leave time, but working from home, having that option long-term is a bit too open-ended. And, hearing the concerns of my fellow colleagues, I don't know if it's something that maybe we could deal with legislatively by creating, some sort of legislation that speaks to, instances like this when the manager, is requesting, I guess, discretion or longer periods of time to work from home. So yeah, so I agree with you there. I do believe that the 2 dates should be approved. However, I think that option should be vetted a little more, and I think it warrants a little bit of the board's decision in that process. Wouldn't want it to happen arbitrarily. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, Madam Attorney, Commissioner Davis specifically mentioned based upon a doctor's recommendation. Is that something that can be a part of this?
He already has a doctor's note that was attached to the FMLA leave, which I believe could be used for this issue as well. He already has a doctor's note, but what you can do is you can certainly update. You can ask for additional information, which was stated earlier, and that would be within the, I'm not sure what Commissioner Davis was referring to when he said additional legislation. I mean, this is your opportunity right here. So I don't know what that would look like right now. I think
Policy.
right, I understand what you're saying. I'm just not sure what that would look like outside of what the request is right now. I can certainly,
Well, this is.
Hold up, Commissioner. Let her finish. Okay.
Yeah, I can certainly research it and get back, and if there's something else, let you know. I just off the top of my head, I'm just not sure what that would look like at this point. But I hear you. I do think something is necessary on the FMLA part, is certainly for those steps that we talked about earlier. But for the reasonable accommodation, I mean, this is, kind of your opportunity to consider what he's requesting.
Right, and the reason why I stated policy is because, I mean, this is, I guess, dealing with, Mr. Pate's instant, but it really does nothing to kind of handle the long-term problem of the commission not maybe, driving the process, because I don't think nobody's supervisor approves FMLA. Like, that's always done independently by the HR department. That's why organizations have HR. But I do hear my colleagues' concern regarding the control, just knowing, being aware of when and where the manager is taking his time. So I'm really speaking to that issue. And to be honest, going forward, I would like to see some sort of policy around it, whether it's being defined in our, our current leave policy or FMLA, whatever, or included in the part of the charter review that Commissioner Taylor is bringing forward. But one way or another, I think it needs to be accomplished. And I don't think a resolution that speaks to a specific manager is the way to do that, nor is it sustainable long-term.
So we can propose that, and I was going to propose that during future agenda items to direct to have that policy developed for ADA and also FMLA. So I want to hear from the rest of my colleagues about how we are going to deal with this resolution.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams.
quick question. I do believe this question may be for Madam City Attorney. Is it possible, and I do see that there are differences in what's being asked, but is there possible to do an addendum where we're saying, we know there's 14 days after the month of December, but a timeline, an end date to when this particular this particular request, is that possible?
Madam Vice Mayor, if you're referring to the first part of this,
Yes.
the manager's request, he would have to, I wasn't given exactly what the dates are for the procedure in December, but he can certainly speak to that if he feels comfortable right now. And then it will be 14 days from the date of the procedure with respect to the first part of this.
No, I think I'm talking about the second part.
Oh, the
So,
second.
yes, the second part. So is there a way to, instead of, so to me, it's so open-ended work from home that could go on for years. Like
That's
there's,
I think that's the request is being made, and the attorney, he can confirm
and I
that.
think that's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
is there a way that an addendum can be placed where this particular ADA, and I understand the policy, but this particular, or the law, but this request, because it's being made based off of what Mr. Pate is going through and will go through inevitably. But could this particular one have a end date? Basically, what I'm saying is 2 months after the 14 days and the recuperation and everything else. Is that something that could happen?
Well, let me try to answer your question this way. The request for Mr. Pate to work from home is coupled with his right to take FMLA leave intermittently, right? So he has a right, and the City Commission has now ratified and approved this right, to say on a given day, my condition has flared up, I can't work today, I need to take FMLA leave. This request for ADA accommodation would be coupled with his FMLA right, but it would allow him to say on a given day, I can't come into work, but I can work remotely. And this commission can, I imagine, can set up a process whereby Mr. Pate notifies the commission members, I'm working from home today, or I'm taking FMLA leave. So the point is, it's not a request that goes on forever. It would only be in effect so long as he's eligible for FMLA leave. And again, as Ms. Norris Weeks alluded to, or Mr. Pate did, the FMLA request can be evaluated periodically by the City Commission, and they can request recertification. Mr. Pate doesn't have a right to take FMLA leave forever. The City Commission can request recertification from his position. So it would be, the ADA request is coupled with the FMLA right, and it would simply allow him to work from home instead of not working. I hope that answers your question.
Well, well, not really, but I mean, it does what it does. I guess what I'm asking is, and because I do know that, and now that I'm thinking, I kind of answered my own question. I do know once ADA is put into effect, there is no end date. It's you have an ADA, you have been granted ADA. However, me speaking from my knowledge of, so on my job, teachers were granted ADA based off of their, whatever their doctors said they needed accommodations for, and they could not teach in the school building. Okay? However, now that we are back, those teachers are back in the building and must come back in the building. However, we have to grant their accommodation, meaning I can't walk from point A to point B. I need to be in a classroom next to a window. Is this accommodation saying I must work from home,
No, not that he must work from home.
or I'm requesting to work from home?
Yes, I'm requesting to work from home when I would otherwise not be able to work at all because of my chronic condition. And I would slightly differ with your statement that ADA is forever. I mean, as Mr. Pate's physician has laid out, he has a chronic condition, but that chronic condition hopefully will disappear one day and soon, hopefully. And if he no longer has a chronic condition, he would no longer be entitled to ADA leave. So it's not a forever right. It's a right that exists so long as he has this condition.
Mr. Mayor. Just the administrative clarification. The ratification that just happened with FMLA, because I applied for it in January, I had to recertify. Our policy says we recertify every year.
Okay.
So I would have to recertify in January, which means the ADA request would end in January unless the commission recertify. I recertify, come back to the commission based on the policy that you guys have, work through this process for you guys to reapprove it. So January is when that recertification. So I would have to go back to my doctor, have him refill out the paperwork, find whatever process that you all decide up here today, and you all make it another determination. So from this date, it's just into January. So, and then January I have to recertify.
Mayor Paget.
All right, so hold on, I want to, Vice Mayor, whether or not you're approving both of them, or the first and the second.
So I think what I was just asking, and maybe it was answered, was the stop date. Is it possible to place an addendum of a stop date? And if is that not possible? But I'm sorry, Madam City Attorney, yes.
Madam Attorney, can we
thank you.
place a date on this?
Yes, so what will happen, Mr. Pate said that he has a chronic condition, or his attorney did. It will be re-upped again when he goes back, I'm sure, in January. So then the time will start all over again, right? And so it will be for a year up to the number of hours that you get for which will be 12 weeks of generally unpaid leave, but in the city of Opa-locka, through your leave policy, we talked about before, you take the sick and then you take the annual. So what this ADA accommodation would do is allow him to work from home when he has flare-ups, right? So he believes what he's saying is that it might be, 2 or 3 days a week that he's able to work in the office based upon his past actions. So you would be really looking at the same thing again. I mean, it's probably more than likely, right? You're going to be looking at what you're looking at now in January. That's not likely to change based on what he said. So there's no, give us 2 months after this date. That's not what you're going to be able to do.
So does that answer your question? Basically, it's if we approve, we approve it, you basically can take it indefinitely. So are you support of that second one? Yeah, we got to move. I want to move to each person. So, okay, good. All right, Commissioner Bass.
I was going to refer back to the question, thank you, that I asked the city manager earlier about the 2 to 3 day answer that I got from city manager. My thoughts are, we know we have to do what's right, and what's right to some of us is not right to the others. But I would like to ask the city manager, if it's possible, based on your history, what you just shared with us, with your time being out, is it possible to put that in writing for us that you will be in the office 2 to 3 days a week?
I can't guarantee that based on flare-ups. I can say I can attempt to be in the office 2 or 3 days a week. I don't have a problem doing that, and I don't have a problem drafting a process and giving it to the city attorney and you all agreeing to it. Without me saying I'm working from home. However they want to do it.
Right, he's not going to be able to give you that assurance.
Well, I
No,
only asked
that-
because of the answer he gave me earlier.
He can't do that.
Okay.
That's the whole point of the sleeve. When it's in, it's when he can.
But if I may, it runs concurrently with the FMLA. The FMLA already says,
Speaking to the mic. speak
sorry,
up.
it said the FMLA paperwork already says 2 to 3 days a week, flare-ups 3 days a week. The ADA request coincides with that. So I can't take, because of that, and the doctor did a certification, I can't come to you and say I'm working from home 5 days a week. I'm working from home for 2 weeks in a row. I can't do that. And if I did that, I would have to go on FMLA and go on leave and whatever. So in saying that, it runs concurrently with the FMLA request. The FMLA request is intermittent, 2 to 3 days a week. The work ADA will be the same. So it wouldn't be something different. I know I spoke to Commissioner Davis. Maybe it's something you want to put in that last body saying, in concurrence with the FMLA approved on this date, intermittent occurrences, whatever that language is, the city attorney has it and place it in there, and there you go. And then vacation happens in January. So those dates could be put in there. This date he put in for FMLA, the recertification date is due in January. Upon in January, this has to come back before the commission upon a doctor certification. All that can be added. I want it to be as detailed as possible and clear for everybody. And that's just my position. I don't know how my attorney feels, but that's my position. I just want to be as transparent and as open as possible.
Mr. Mayor.
So Commissioner, so we gotta, y'all want to move on. We gotta say, are we gonna approve the first request? Are we going to approve and deny the second request? So it's two, right? We gotta approve or deny. So I myself and Commissioner Davis has said approve the first request and deny the second request. So I need to hear probably for at least one other person, yay and nay on that proposition, or whether or not you want to approve both of them. So that's what we got to do to be able to move on and vote on this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner
I
Taylor.
guess since I'm the only person that has not talked, I'm good with approving both of them. I would never deny anybody of ADA accommodation or FMLA or question their sickness. So I'm good with where it's at. It closes on the end of this year and it restarts in January, so we'll revisit it at that time, but I'm good with it the way.
And Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Davis.
Yes, I think you said I wasn't in favor of the second one. That's partly true. I just only had a problem with the open-ended ADA request from the manager. So not completely opposed to it, just on leaving the time open-ended. That was my concern. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Correct the record.
All right, so
Mr. Mayor, can I?
hold on, let's if this is gonna come to a resolution, let's get it to a resolution. All right. So is the rest of the commission approving the 14-day in December and also to work from home whenever and not have to take FMLA leave for the second request? Can I hear at least 3 yeses so we can make that motion and move?
Wait, so our discussion is based on I'm not understanding why you need that without just asking for the vote.
Section 2 of the recital states approve, deny ADA requests.
My point is, Mr.
The
Mayor,
city commission of the city, wait, let's be very clear, because we got this,
I
we are,
understand,
with
Mr. Mayor. So
9:54.
if you don't agree
we
with
have
the
item.
verbiage, then offer a friendly amendment. But to.
Listen to the request.
I
The
can
city
read-
commission of the city of Opa-locka hereby approves/denies ADA reasonable accommodation requests for John Pate beginning for a specific period of 14 days. We cannot just say yes because it literally says approve or deny. Then the second one, additionally, the city commission approves/denies ADA reasonable accommodation requests to generally work from home, so as he is not always required to use FMLA when he is unable to work in the office due to flare-ups of his condition. So, what is the will of the commission? To approve or deny the first one, approve or deny the second one?
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams,
I approve the first, deny the second, period.
thank you. Commissioner Davis,
I approve the first, and I would like to put a motion on the floor to amend the second, section 2, where it says to generally work from home so that he is not always required to use FMLA. If we could strike out the second paragraph of that section that includes that language. I'm good with the second item. Like I said, I would never, disapprove a qualifying individual with an accommodation.
Commissioner Davis,
that was
that's,
a double speak. You didn't you can't strike out and say you're okay with it. It's either you're okay with it or you're not. That's what the language that says approve or deny. So you have to make a decision to approve or deny. You can't just
Well,
strike
deny
out.
it, deny it.
Okay, so that is 3 to approve, the first and deny the second. Okay, can we move for a vote? And then can I get a motion on the floor to approve the reasonable accommodation for the 14-day period and deny the accommodation to work from home and not use FMLA? The motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but I know you have 3 already, but I think you should afford the entire commission to at least give their vote.
That's what I've been asking for.
Hold on.
Can the
gonna
rest of
vote
the
on the item?
commission
Are we gonna
provide
discuss
their
it? Are we gonna end
thoughts?
it? Like,
Mr. Mayor,
point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, man, come on, y'all.
Like,
What's your point of order, Commissioner Davis?
my point of order is, are we voting on the item? Are we voting? You had an amendment. Vice Mayor took the floor. Like, point of order.
Hello, what's the point of order?
The point of order is what are we doing? Are we discussing the item? Are we voting? Are we voting on the amendment? Like, help me out.
The vice mayor just asked to hear from 2 other colleagues.
And she also took the floor and was not recognized, but you checked every other commissioner
You
up
sure did,
here.
'cause you cut me off when I was talking.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You
talking
sure
about.
cut me
Look,
off
I
when
don't
was talking. I
normally
was in the middle of a
interject,
sentence
but we need
and
to
you cut
stop.
me off.
We really do need to stop. I don't interject ever. But don't embarrass me and don't embarrass the city of Opa-locka any further. Please, respectfully. Let's vote and go home. I'm hungry.
May I address Mr. Davis's
No,
request?
no, sir, not at the moment. So Madam Attorney, do we have to make a motion to select one of the other in this item and then call for the vote?
you could make a motion, if you do have a motion to,
Say it again?
you can, if you have a motion to approve one, deny the other, approve both, or you could make a motion that would, if you have, three people voting,
Okay.
I don't know if there was a motion made,
All right.
but
So do I have a motion to approve ADA reasonable accommodation request for John Pate, city manager, beginning for a specific period of 14 days during the month of December 2021, for which procedure is now planned to take place? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner David, second by, moved by Commissioner Bass, second by Commissioner Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Sorry, Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to deny ADA reasonable accommodation request for John Pate, generally work from home so that he is not always required to use FMLA when he is unable to work in the office due to flare-ups of his condition? Okay, do I have a motion to approve ADA reasonable accommodation request for John Pate to generally work from home so that he is not always required to use FMLA when he is unable to work in the office due to flare-up of his condition?
Yes.
Moved by Commissioner Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Williams,
No.
Commissioner Bass,
No.
Commissioner Davis,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion fails.
Now, based upon the motions in this resolution, can we vote on moving this item forward as stated in this, where we will approve the 14A accommodation and deny the reasonable accommodation? Madam Clerk, roll call.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Would you just repeat that again just a second?
So we have made a motion on this item to approve the first paragraph under section 2 and deny the second paragraph under section 2. That's what we just voted upon. And now it's time to call for the vote so we can move on to the next item. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 16A1.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving a request from AMD USA, Inc. to close, vacate, and abandon a portion of Northwest 130th Street between Northwest 30th Avenue and Northwest 30th Court, and a portion of Northwest 30th Court between Northwest 130th Street and Northwest 131st Street for the operation of a concrete batching plant and finished concrete production company facility on the property located at 13050 Northwest 30th Avenue and identified by folios 08-2128-002, 0020, 08-2128-002, 0030, 08-2128-002, 0040, 08-2128-002, 0050, 08-2128-002, 0060, 08-2128-002, 0090, 08-2128-004-0380, and 08-2128-004-0330, and the I-2 zoning district, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
This is a public hearing item. Public hearing on 16A1 is open.
Good evening, Hope Calhoun, land use attorney on behalf of the applicant with regard to the vacation application. We were here before you a few months ago on this vacation in connection with the rest of the petitions for this property. The reason we're back before you is because at that time we had not had the property appraised. We are back tonight with the property appraised and in accordance with your ordinance. In your backup, you see what we've come to as our, I guess, offer for the right-of-way vacation amount due. So we're prepared to discuss that if there's a desire to discuss what we've offered. If also, if there are questions tonight with me is our engineer who prepared this correspondence and can further explain how we got to this number. If there are questions about that. Also with me tonight is the owner of the property and he can also answer questions if necessary. Given the hour, I'm just trying to be brief and respectful. So again, we're available for questions as necessary so that you can please vote in favor of our request.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Commissioner Taylor. Mr. Manager?
Through Mr. Gay.
Mayor Commissioners, Gregory Gay, Director of Planning and Community Development. Just to give you some context to this particular application, this property has been in operation with some type of industrial activity since 1988. And in 2008, the applicant that is before you acquired the business and the property that is located at this particular address. As it relates to the right-of-way issue, that was something that had not been addressed, and under the previous zoning code, it seemed that particular ordinances were not completely applicable or applied to this particular process at the time. As it relates to the right-of-way vacations, we did receive the information and the appraisal relating to the right-of-way. The right-of-way is being, in essence, acquired for approximately $24 a square foot, which comes to an amount of $275,000 and some change. But the applicant is also proffering that they need to do a dedication of right-of-way. So in essence, as a part of their dedication of right-of-way, they would like to seek a reduction in the dedication of right-of-way that they're giving, which is valued to be approximately $180,000. And in essence, the $275,000 would be reduced by $180,000, and they would pay for the right-of-way and the in-kind contribution at a price of approximately $95,000. Staff has reviewed the information, and it is in our best judgment that we really don't want to have both actions occur at the same time, but it is at your discretion and at your will, if you so decide that you will wish to entertain it. That is what is being proffered before you, and this staff's recommendation.
Mr. Manager, Mr. Gay, so there's no mention of the fact that this property is worth $341,000.
Mr. Gay.
The information that was provided as a part of the appraisal quoted a price of $275,000, which is approximately $24 per square foot.
Could you tell me, point to where in this agenda it says that? Because I'm looking at page 524 and also 522 with the signature of the certified general appraiser. And it says the market value as is $341,000. Could you show me where I'm off?
I'm gonna ask the person who provided that information to speak on that.
Thank you. Glenn Hanks. I'm the engineer on the project 11060 Southwest First Street, Coral Springs. The $24 per square foot value versus the $30 as prescribed in the right-of-way acquisition ordinance or right-of-way vacation ordinance. I believe, do we have a number on that? Okay. Specifies that the value of vacated right-of-way be taken as the average value of the appraised value prepared by a certified private appraiser and the value listed on the property appraiser's website. Now, Miami-Dade County's property appraiser does not list values for rights-of-way. They list values for the lands adjacent to it. So what I did was I computed the values of the lands surrounding the vacated right-of-way and took a square foot average, a weighted average of those values with the weighted average of the $30 per square foot that the appraiser had identified for that to come up with that $24 per square foot value.
So what I'm hearing is that the appraiser who values land said it is $341,000. And an engineer, and your engineer is in what? What's your certification name?
I'm a civil engineer.
Civil engineer.
Yes, sir.
So as an engineer,
Yes.
you're appraising.
I'm not appraising anything. I am certifying the calculation as being consistent with what is required in your right-of-way ordinance, which is the average of the appraised value, and you have a copy of that appraisal report, and the value listed on the Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser's website.
But you said on the Miami-Dade County Appraised website, they do not appraise right-of-ways.
That is
correct?
correct. So we could have taken a zero
So
value.
you are coming up with this and using our ordinance to say, which is usually shared for land that is on appraised, right? You're saying that you're just kind of taking the land and applying it to this right away, and then you came up with this number.
For vacant industrial land, which is what the vacated or to the right of way that we're requesting be vacated, that will become vacant industrial land or just industrial land. That has certain values. And those values of the surrounding properties are listed on the property appraiser's website. And that varies depending on the amount of frontage, depending on what, just some different characteristics. I don't know exactly what the county's property appraiser does with those values, but one parcel control number, maybe because it's got frontage on two sides, has $10 per square foot. Another one has $8. It just varies. So what
Okay.
we did was we took the average of those to come up with that $24.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that a land appraiser gave us a price of $341,000, right? Miami-Dade appraiser office doesn't appraise streets, but someone that appraises land gave us a price. And the engineer came up with a dollar amount by looking at surrounding properties and figuring out some calculation, and came up with 275. And from there, you moved it based upon a use our ordinance, which requires appraised value and comparison with Miami-Dade appraisal office. and you reduce that in half to 180, and then you said you're going to give us only 94,918 for this property.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Did anything I said was off?
I just want to have the opportunity to explain, again, Hope Calhoun, thank you. Just want us to have the opportunity to explain how we got to the calculation. You're off only by a little bit. There's a little bit of detail if we could allow us to
Okay.
explain. And I'm gonna ask Glenn to explain how we got to the number, how he did the calculation, including the offset. And it includes some land that is currently occupied and utilized by the city, that is actually owned by our client. So we just want to be able to explain it very briefly, how that math was done, if we could.
I see it. I'm clear about how the math was done. It just doesn't, it's not something that I see makes sense. So why we would give away this land for only 94,000.
So Mr. Mayor, if
So
I-
that's what the point is. And I'm going to take the calculations of a engineer to try and figure this out based upon the Miami-Dade Appraiser's Office, which doesn't appraise that land. So I'm clear about it, but I'm just, nah.
We appreciate you allowing us that time to explain, but just so that I'm clear, and I think you may have said it, but just so I'm clear, your ordinance specifically provides that we take the average, I know you said it already, the average of what the appraiser does and the average of what the property appraiser provides. I'm just reiterating, the property appraiser didn't provide a value. So that's why Mr. Hanks did what he did. And then I'm going to ask him to further explain how the final number was determined, because again, I think they're minor details that you are important to the consideration of how we got here.
Okay, so to speak to how we came up with those values, and what I want to take a separation on is the property appraiser. They have an assessed value, or they do not assess a value to the property, to rights of way. So when the property appraiser, that's going to be the assessed value, and the private appraiser will be the appraised value. The assessed value, to come up with a rate, we took a look at 8 surrounding parcels of land that abut the right of ways that we are requesting be vacated. We then took the value that is listed on the property appraiser's website, and that ranged from, for a small parcel, from $97,000, $98,000 to over $1.8 million for a larger parcel. So what we needed to do to come up with what is the real value of it, we went ahead and did what is called an area weighted average. Therefore, and that's where we came up with the $18.43 per square foot weighted average value, and the market value that was set forth in the private appraiser's report at $30 a square foot. The average of those two comes up to $24.22. That's how we did it. Just straightforward averaging of those weighted numbers.
Thank you. So that's my first concern with this item is how you come to that number and why we only getting, we only offering 94,000 for this property. Second, has this property been utilizing this land?
Making sure I get this the right direction. Okay, so what we got here is an aerial photograph of the property. The property is bounded with the reddish line, maybe it's purple, I don't, pink. Sorry, you're asking an engineer to tell you colors. I'm sorry. The yellow portion here is the portion of right of way for Northwest 30th Court and Northwest 130th Street that we are requesting the vacation on. That is interior to the property. It is unimproved. unimproved land. There is no facilities in it that the city has. There's no sidewalks, no curbs, no streets, no drainage. And those represent partial rights of way. So the city couldn't even build a road on that because they don't have sufficient right of way. It's only 25 feet. That is what we're requesting be vacated. There is also a separate issue that is going on concurrently with this. It's just kind of all tied together and why we're going through this whole plating and site plan process to sort out. Presently on the alignment of Northwest 131st, the city had previously initiated a objective to construct a road from Northwest 30th Avenue all the way to Northwest 32nd Avenue to help move the industrial vehicles away from residential properties. To do that, they had to finish off this link. Part of the link between Northwest 30th Court and Northwest 31st Avenue is presently owned by our client. So the city does not have the full width of right-of-way available to construct the road for Northwest 131st Street. So as part of this, we are going to dedicate Northwest 131st or a portion of it so that it fulfills the right-of-way requirements of the city. In exchange, what we'd like to do is formalize the vacation of Northwest 130th Street and Northwest 30th Court that are internal to the property, that are not being used by the city and are not going to serve any purpose. What that will do is that will increase, that'll allow my client to go ahead and create a single parcel where 7 parcels presently exist. It'll simplify permitting. It'll make this parcel more attractive for future development as well.
Mr. Mayor?
I asked the question, is the owner currently utilizing the land that we are approving to vacate?
Yes, from the standpoint that it is internal to their overall boundaries. They run vehicles across it. There is some bulk storage that is occurring on the property. And there some material silos that have existed there since the 1970s.
Mr. Mayor?
Can I drive my car through that unhindered land?
No, you couldn't, not unless you had a Range Rover or a Humvee. It's not improved in any manner. It's not open to the public. It's a partial right of way.
Okay.
Mr.
Mr. Manager?
Question. I think I heard during your explanation that there's a roadway that we constructed that impinged on your land. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's on the Northwest 131st Street.
And when this road was constructed, did you guys make notice to the city that we were doing construction on your land? That we intruded on your property while we constructed that street?
This was all parts of the discussions that were being had. There is correspondence between the city, the preceding city manager and the preceding owner, where it is indicated that the city is desirous of obtaining rights to acquire right of way so that they can construct.
Understood. So
We've
just
been-
understood, just real quick, as a matter of clarification, I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time, but just a matter of clarification. The city manager does not have the authority to give up city right of way without the city commission's approval. And a letter from a city manager saying it's okay to utilize the property, we're going to agree to utilize the property and construct land.
That letter doesn't say that at all.
So,
What does the
but did
letter-
you guys stop it? Like when it was happening, did you guys put the city on notice? Was it stopped? Or were you guys okay with it?
This was all part of, this letter to the prior owner was in response to a request again from the prior owner of this property for a vacation of Northwest 131st as well as 30th Court and Northwest 130th. The city countered by saying, we really don't have a problem with 30th Court or 130th Street. However, we would like to build the road from 30th Avenue to 32nd Avenue.
All right.
And during the
Mr. Mayor, I
process
got one,
of-
wait, wait,
I have one key point, Mr. Mayor, please.
I do not want to get distracted from my points. Please wrap up, Mr. Manager.
So my point is, this road was constructed. It was correspondence between the city and a previous owner. It's okay to do it. But now in your appraisal calculation, you're using that area as a part of the appraisal calculation, even though this was a agreed upon project by the city, even though the city manager didn't have the authority to do so. Now with a new owner, you're saying, because I think I heard you say that part of the roadway you guys use as part of the calculation, right? Isn't that?
Yes, because the city is requiring or requesting dedication, we're willing to give that. My client
At a price.
moved there at his own expense. He moved his operations back in anticipation. We've been in this process since 2018. And part of also going along with those letters and with this process was we were directed to come before the city commission or come before the city for T-plat approval, for site plan approval, for the whole, and for the vacation of the requested rights of way.
It wasn't
And we've been
directed,
in
that's
that
part of our
process since
laws, and
2018.
that is part of what happens in all situations. When someone wants to build upon land that is not theirs, they have to go in front of the people who land that they are encroaching upon. That is a very basic right as
Yes.
in here in America.
Yes.
And here in this situation, this company has been utilizing our land illegally for many years. And now you're coming before us to pay for this land, to offer us $94,000 for this land. And my third point is I've been asking in support of this for the occupational licensing and building approvals of this. And I have not received that information. Could someone explain to me why?
Mr. Mayor, you're asking that of us or of staff?
Anybody in this room, staff, anybody, please help me understand why that information has not been provided. And it's been for months.
Mr. Mayor Gregory Gay, the occupational license information, we were just able to get that information this week. We have made numerous requests, and now that I am a part of the building and licensing department, I was able to ascertain that particular information. Unfortunately, we did not have it in time to include it as a part of the application. But I do have that information available and readily available if you would like to see it.
So why was that?
As I stated before, this property has had licensure since 1988 under other industrial uses. As far as the concrete plant operation, that is something that came into operation, I believe, in 2008. And this particular property owner who acquired the property from the previous owner had been running a concrete operational plant for a number of years. He had received licensure from the city of Opa-locka for that concrete batching plant. So we do have that information available.
So why hasn't it been provided to me? And I've been asking it. I made that first request during a meeting. When we first had this, I made it in every single agenda briefing, including last week. And I'm here to vote on this item, and I do not have it in front of me.
I do.
This is why I'm not supporting this item. Number one, they're not giving the value to this community for this land. Number two, they have been illegally using this land and have blocked off streets. This street that they're blocking off is just one area that they blocked off in the past. They've blocked off other streets. They've been tearing up roads in that surrounding community with this concrete facility on 131st, where Ingram Terrace Apartments is. And it's been affecting that land for many while and all those residents that live there. And now they're coming before us, and I cannot get information to do my due diligence as a elected official representing the people, to understand what's going on with this property. And this has been months, and at this point in time, I in no way, shape, or form can support this item as it stands. Any other comments, questions from
if I
the
may-
dais?
If I may, please.
Ms. Calhoun?
We were not aware that you didn't have information. We would have gladly provided it, number one. So I apologize to you for you not having that information. Secondly, with regard to the use of the property, as has been stated, I think it's a little harsh to say that it's been used illegally for quite some time. I understand your position that if it wasn't vacated and we have facilities surrounding it, it would appear that it's not able to be used. But it's not able to be used because it's not a paved and improved and properly, doesn't have the proper width to be a right-of-way. The current property owner and the prior property owner have tried to work with the city for a number of years so that the property can operate properly and not hinder the residential areas around it. There are a few things I just want to talk about before a vote is taken. Number one, the item before you right now is first reading of an ordinance to vacate. In connection with this first reading ordinance, we have a number of other resolutions that we'd like to have approved. If there is an issue with the amount that we are offering to provide to the city, we are here happy to discuss that amount and what would be more acceptable to the city, somewhere between the 94 and the appraised value of 200,000+. So if there is a desire or will of the commission to move forward with number one, the vacation, and number two, the balance of the items, I would ask a few things. Number one, perhaps the item can be moved forward on first reading, and between first and second, we can discuss again a reasonable amount so that when we come back before you for second reading, we have an agreed upon figure. And Mr. Mayor, whatever information you and the balance of the commission would need to make a decision, we're happy to provide it to you. And then number two, so my first request is to pass it on first reading. And again, either with a number tonight, or we can agree to come back to a number that we all agree with at second reading. And then that the items that go along with this also get approved so the property can be improved and operate, I think, in a manner that everyone would appreciate, more uniform on the property together, if we're allowed to move forward with the balance of the applications. So I hope my request was clear. Number one, I'm asking for first reading passage, and we can either discuss tonight or between first and second reading a number that is more acceptable to the commission as a whole. And then in addition to that, the consideration of the balance of the items. Again, so we can get through first reading of the vacation and then ultimately the second reading with a number that we can all agree to.
Okay, yeah, so one part you mentioned was a little harsh upon. Has Durham approved this operation?
We have licenses from Durham. Yes, we do.
So Durham has approved this operation. Mr. Manager or Mr. Gay?
One item that is remaining for Durham to approve is based on the items that have been being presented before you. The vacation of the right-of-way, the replat, and approval of the site plan and the other related items. So Durham is waiting to receive the city's approval in relationship to those. As it relates to the operation of the concrete batching facility, those items have already been approved as it relates to that. So it's more or less the final approvals overall is predicated on the actions taken by the commission.
So it's not been approved by Durham for this business to operate on our land at this time.
As it stands right now, they have not been granted total approval. As far as the business operation, they have been approved for that. As far as the documentation to allow for the business to operate there, that has not been finally approved. And this is the actions that Durham is waiting for to approve that particular process. So upon the direction of the commission, they will make that final decision.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make it clear for the public and all those watching with this information. Any comments, questions from my colleagues?
I have a question. My question, of course, probably to the attorney. I know, obviously, given the history, we've issued occupational license, and clearly down on the agenda, we also have a zoning matter. My major concern, of course, because I've seen these sort of situations end up in litigation and the city not always setting the best precedent. And clearly that's also a concern here. But I'm more concerned with the amount. So I will actually approve the item. I will be in support of it. Under the circumstances that we have I guess a more in-depth conversation as a board when the second reading does come, so that we can look at the amount that seemed to be the basis of most of the arguments that I heard was, the amount wasn't fair, and then the subsequent argument of the occupational licenses and that history and not having that information. But I sat on the zoning board. I know how these issues end up. Now sitting on a commission. So I would just urge my colleagues to consider it. Thank you.
Floor is open for discussion. Any other comments?
Not really a question, but I do agree with my colleague. As long as we can explore the amount in the second reading, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the resolution.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pike?
No.
Motion passes first reading.
Item 15, A1.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving a tentative plat review request for the operation of a concrete batching plant and finished concrete production company facility on the property located at 13050 Northwest 30th Avenue and identified by folios 08-2128-002-0020, 08-2128-002-0030, 08-2128-002-0040, 08-2128-002-0050, 08-2128-002-0060, 08-2128-002-0090, 08-2128-004-0380, and 08-2128-004-0330, and the I-2 zoning district, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
So planning and zoning item. Planning and zoning present this item.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, Gregory Gay. This is to allow for a tentative plat to be proffered for this particular property. As you may know, when you have a property that's being replatted, it has to be brought before the city commission. And then upon their approval, the plat goes back to Miami-Dade County to be approved as a tentative plat. And then for the final plat, it goes through that same process all over again. In essence, this is basically to unify the 7 parcels that the concrete batching facility is located on now. As a result of that, and upon the approval of the second reading of the street vacation and right of way, that parcel will also be included as a part of the replat. So as a part of unifying this particular site, staff did review this. This is what's presented before the Planning and Zoning Board. The Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval, and staff recommends approval as well.
It's a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Again, Hope Calhoun, attorney on behalf of the landowner. We'd ask that you please approve this resolution as it was already explained by staff. Thank you.
Public hearing is closed. We have a motion. Moved by Commissioner Taylor,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Williams. Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor, Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bath,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
15,
Thank
Pate 2.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving a variance request for the operation of a concrete batching plant and finished concrete production company facility on the property located at 13050 Northwest 30th Avenue and identified by folios 08-2128-002-0020, 08-2128-002-0030, 08-2128-002-0040, 08-2128-002-0050, 08-2128-002-0060, 08-2128-002-0090, 08-2128-004-0380, and 08-2128-004-0330, in the I-2 zoning district, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
This is a planning and zoning item. Planning and zoning present.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is for the approval of the variance request for the operation of the concrete batching plant facility. The variance is a requirement based on today's code relating to the distance requirement from a residential development, which is just to the east of this particular property. The purpose of the variance is to relax the present code requirements as we have explained from previous applications. This particular operation was in place at approximately 2008, and there were other industrial uses that predate that to approximately 1988. Because of the close proximity to the residential development, the variance is a necessary tool in order for this particular operation to continue to operate at this site. This was presented before the Planning and Zoning Board. Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval, and staff recommends approval as well.
This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Good evening again, Hope Calhoun on behalf of the applicant. We ask that you please vote consistent with staff report and approve our requested variance. Thank you.
Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor, Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bath,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
15-3.
Thank you.
8-3.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving the special exception site plan review request for the operation of a concrete batching plant and finished concrete production company facility on the property located at 13050 Northwest 30th Avenue and identified by folios 08-2128-002-0020, 08-2128-002-0030, 08-2128-002-0040, 08-2128-002-0050, 08-2128-002-0060, 08-2128-002-0090, 08-2128-004-0380, and 08-2128-004-0330 in the I-2 zoning district, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
It's a planning and zoning item, planning and zoning.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is for the approval of the special exception for the operation of the concrete batching plant in this particular location. Under today's code, a special exception is required for all concrete batching and plant facilities to be done in the I-2 and I-3 zoned areas. This is basically to take it through the public process so that you would know that this particular type of facility is being constructed here. Even though this was done from previous dates from 2008 under the previous code, because of the requirements being addressed today, they will have to go through the special exception as it is right now. So we're basically treating it as a project that is coming before you for the first time. This was presented before the Planning and Zoning Board. Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval, and staff recommends approval as well.
It's a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Again, Hope Calhoun, on behalf of the applicant, we'd ask that you vote in favor of this application. It is an existing business. We are not proposing any new construction at this time, just to be clear. Thank you.
Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner Bass. Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
15-4, 84.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving a development agreement for the operation of a concrete batching plant and finished concrete production company facility on the property located at 13050 Northwest 30th Avenue and identified by folios 08-2128-002-0020, 08-2128-002-0030, 08-2128-002-0040, 08-2128-002-0050, 08-2128-002-0060, 08-2128-002-0090, 08-2128-004-0380, and 08-2128-004-0330, and the I-2 zoning district, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
This is planning and zoning item. Planning and zoning present.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is the final item to approve the development agreement for the operation of the concrete batching facility. Because we are treating this as an application that's becoming before us for the first time, development agreements are normally a document that accompanies this particular type of development. The purpose of this development agreement is to make sure that all of the other issues relating to the operation of the facility is remain in place. They did submit a site plan, which included some amenities to be included as far as landscaping and other types of site improvements. We wanted to make sure that those items would be addressed and completed as a part of the overall updating of this particular property. This was presented before the Planning and Zoning Board. Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval, and staff also recommends approval.
Public hearing is open.
Good evening. Thank you again, Hope Calhoun, on behalf of the applicant. We appreciate your support and ask that you please vote in favor of this development agreement so we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Public hearing is closed. Do you have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass. Second by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just brief. I know we're letting it go through on first reading, but I just want to make sure that we're clear by at least second reading, all the concerns that were brought up will be addressed.
Okay, I'll reach out to Mr. Gabe tomorrow to start working.
Thank
on
you.
it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Madam Attorney?
yes, Vice Mayor, through the mayor, I just want to make clear that this is a resolution, so there will be no second reading on this item.
Thank you. Mhm.
And also, note that, I don't know if any of y'all drove through that property, but right now there is a horrendous stone wall and Church Street and gate that just looks crazy. I don't know if y'all want to make sure that this property looks somewhat respectable in the city, but this is the time to make sure that happens. So those are my comments. Any other discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
I too agree with that, that statement. The aesthetics of the property can, in my opinion, be approved. So I don't know if the applicants are open to adding a beautification aspect to the agreement that would, I don't know, maybe create some sort of shrubbery, trees, or a substitute for fencing that would make it more appealing and, less of a nuisance to the residential community that's nearby.
If I may,
Is
Mr.
that a
Mayor.
question to the applicant?
Through the mayor to the applicant.
Ms. Calhoun?
Thank you. I think staff stated that we did submit a site plan. Mr. Hanks is going to speak to some of the beautification that we're adding to it, which does include landscaping improvements.
Good afternoon, good evening, sorry. Glenn Hanks for the applicant. The site plan that is presented and has circulated through staff includes such features as a 30-foot landscape buffer adjacent to the residential property along 30th Avenue. And also includes the code required landscape buffers on Northwest 131st, as well as on the west on Northwest 31st Avenue. Street trees and shrubbery will also be incorporated into it, and that ugly concrete wall that you mentioned on the 131st, that is going to be removed and replaced with fencing to balance out aesthetics and security needs. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds pretty, well, at least to me. I don't know how my colleagues feel about it, but
No discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Baz?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Mayor Pike?
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you very much. We'll see you on second reading of the ordinance. Have a good night.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you all, as the commission may be aware, starting this commission meeting, I will be starting to provide quarterly financial reports. The report is quite lengthy. I know the time is getting late, so is that the commission's will, if they want me to go through the several page financial report or defer it to the next meeting, I can give the presentation at that time. I don't have a problem either way.
Questions for the manager?
Mayor Packett,
Um,
in all
Commissioner
honesty,
Bass?
I would love to hear his full report, but I'm really tired. And I know we're here to serve the people, but I think when we get this tired, it's time to stop because we start to make judgment that's not always conducive to a healthy environment.
Any other questions for the manager? Manager, what's the status of the charter review committee that we all sponsored?
Which review committee?
The charter review, we passed legislation a few months ago.
The city manager's office is not working on that.
Okay, so when will it come before us? I know it's just a simple.
Mr. Mayor, the city manager's office is not working on that. The city clerk's office is working on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Clerk?
Yes, so I did prepare a draft legislation and ordinance for the Charter Review Board, and it's now being reviewed by the city attorney's office. So the intent is to have it before the commission, the first meeting in October.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a draft already, and We did consult with the clerk's office earlier today, Mr. Mayor, and the clerk is right. We will have it will be before you all, the first meeting in October.
Thank you. Any other questions on the manager? Any official board reports?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, as chair of the audit committee, I do want to note that we have an appointment available. One of our advisors were removed by the manager's office. And we need to fill that appointment on the board for the advisory. And hopefully before our next meeting, which will be in alignment with the RFP for the next audit.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager?
that's my appointment. That's not the commission's appointment. That position on the board is the manager's appointment. He was the manager's representative. That's why I removed him. That's why I had the authority to remove him. If he was a regular board member, the commission would have to do it. You remember the commission appointed Ms. Johnson, and I think one other person. I appointed the alternate. And then you elected yourself through the commission as the chair.
Madam Attorney, could you review the policy and let us know who has the authority to appoint people on the commission, on our elected boards?
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to review the policy. The information that I was able to pull up from an email, it says that the audit committee has 5 members appointed by resolution of the city commission who shall serve without compensation. It says that the commission selected, I guess, 5 persons, and then I do not see specifically where it says, it just says the members appointed, they have to live within the limits of the city. The persons have to be familiar with the audit procedures through their experience. It says that all members must be in good standing. At least one member of the commission must be a member of the audit committee and will serve as the chair, and the term of the appointments of the audit committee shall be for 2 years. It does not say, it just says 5 members appointed by resolution of the city commission. So it would seem to suggest that, there will be 5 members appointed by resolution of the city commission. So that I don't see the area where it says that the manager has a specific appointment, although I am looking at a letter that was sent, which has some of the administrative policy conditions in the letter. So if it's in something else, I don't see it, but in the information that I have in front of me, it does not specifically state that the manager has an appointee.
I'm asking commission, we need to appoint someone to the board, so we have a full 5 members. And I think we should, I don't know whether or not he even had the legal authority to remove the person, but I would recommend Ash Hepburn, and if not, we need to appoint someone else to that board. So does anyone want to leave it vacant?
Mr.
or-
Hepburn is not a resident of the city.
He
It's been
doesn't have to
proven.
be, he's an advisory position. Are we gonna leave it vacant, or are we gonna appoint someone?
Is that a question for the board or the manager?
Yes, for the board. It's approved, a resolution by us five. We're in another crazy situation because we don't know, if it was removed in the first place or whether or not that's actually law, but just to make sure at the end of the day, Mr. Hepburn received a letter saying he was removed. He did not show up at the last audit committee meeting. We need someone to be at our audit committee meeting to provide a perspective. There are 3 voting members of the audit committee that are residents within the city. Then we have the city manager or the finance director as advisory, and then we have one other person. So right now we're missing that one other person, and for us to have a legitimate operating audit committee, we need to have those 5 people. So
Okay,
that's what-
so does anybody have a nomination? And then also the second part, which is related to the legality of it, is it, I guess, is it our appointment to make? Because I really didn't hear a clear answer from the attorney stating otherwise, that it's not, it hasn't been permitted. So
It
can I
would
get
be
a
your
clear
appoint-
answer before we move forward?
Yeah, for a clear answer, it would be your appointment. It says that the person serve at the pleasure of the commission. You're the commission body and it's your appoint.
Okay.
All 5 are your appointees.
Okay, so my next question is, does anybody have any nominations? Because I don't.
Mr. Mayor, you
Vice Mayor.
you proffered up a name, correct?
Yes. it's
But do they need to go through the board application process, or as long as you give a name? Is that fine?
You don't necessarily have to, and I think he already did. Madam Clerk, do you know if he's already, if we appointed him?
Mr.
So
Mayor,
basically
that
what we
person's
did
not a
is we gave,
resident.
Basically, during the audit committee, we appointed 3 and a manager, and we asked for the manager to recommend someone as the appointment, and the manager recommended Mr. Hepburn at that time, and we approved that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
a policy was just read saying the individual requires to be a resident. The individual that you're proffering is not a resident. It's proven.
That part, what you're saying is not correct, Mr. Manager.
He owns property in the city. He does not live here.
The attorney clearly just told us we have the ability to appoint someone, y'all. So we can move it on to another agenda if we would like. We just need to make sure we have someone there. So we want to spend some time to think about somebody else. I served on board with Mr. Hepburn, and he asked some very good questions that helped us to really understand our finances and what we need and how to move forward. And I don't understand why it was removed. So that's why I just say he's already there. We just move forward with it. If I want to move it to another time and think about somebody else to appoint, that's the will of the commission. We can move on that. But it is something we got to deal with.
Mr. Mayor.
I would like,
So Commissioner Bass, and then Commissioner Teller, and then Vice Mayor Williams.
Okay, I'm hearing 2 things. I just need a little clarification. Does the person have to be a resident of the city of Opa-locka?
Madam
Right.
Attorney.
Well, the legislation says that the city commission should consider the following guidelines. So they're thought of, I guess, in your legislation as guidelines. And that would be that the member appointed live within the city limits, the persons are familiar with the audit procedures, blah, blah, blah. And it has consultants from management consulting firms, including management consulting divisions of CPA firms, attorneys, internal auditors, et cetera. And then all members must be in good standing within the city. So these are guidelines. So I guess it doesn't specifically, it doesn't say you shall live. It says that the city commission should consider the following guidelines. So maybe they don't meet everything that this says, but if they meet other things, you could consider these as guidelines.
Thank you so much. Just one more.
I would like to just drop Ms. Audrey Dominguez's name. I don't know, well, she's not aware unless she's watching. I don't know what would be the next step, but I would like to just drop her name. Thank you.
And I'll second Audrey Dominguez.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to appoint Audrey Dominguez to the audit committee as advisor role. Not a voting role, an advisor role. That's moved by
agree
Commissioner
with that.
Bass,
I agree with that.
second by Commissioner Taylor. That's on the floor. Oh, but they put a motion on the floor, so you can speak on the motion.
Yeah, I have a question relative to the motion. So if I didn't hear the conversation from the attorney, but is it required to have a resident?
Okay, so the city clerk gave me a resolution. What I'm looking at is a city policy, and the policy looks like it may be slightly different than the resolution which established your audit committee. So I guess conceivably you could change it, but right now the resolution that was passed 20-9784 states that and this is strange because it says pursuant to 2218.391, but let me see, hold on one second. Where's the bottom of it? Where's the end? Oh, it's loading, okay. Okay, so it says appointing members of the audit committee, the city commission hereby appoints, and you have the people who it appoints. Yeah, I think the information I gave you, not I think, but information I gave you is correct previously. This is just, yeah, this is not, yeah. The information I gave you is correct previously. You have the, you can consider the following guidelines. You don't have to, the person does not have to live there. It's a guideline. And the person just has to be familiar with the audit procedures through their experience with the county or corporate management, be represented on the audit committee. It can include a business person, an accountant, representatives from the financial institutions. These are different things you can consider. And finally, that all members must be in good standing with the city. They can't have any debt with the city or litigation against the city. And at least one member has to be, at least one commission member has to be a member of the audit committee. And I think that's the mayor. So what I gave you earlier is accurate.
Got it. Hearing that, I will urge the commission, you know, I always supported Ms. Dominguez, and I think she also, we already appointed her to one of our other boards. And of course, we know that she's an active, engaged resident, and we do want to encourage them to join and engage in our board activities. However, I think the position is calling for someone with, you know, expertise. We actually amended, I think it was the zoning board requirements to allow for experts to sit on that board specifically to provide a similar focus. So, you know, while I do support Ms. Dominguez, I just don't think it's the correct fit, you know, given what the board needs are and, you know, where they're heading.
Any other discussion on the motion? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call on the motion.
I'm sorry, Mayor, can you restate the motion? I have the motion in the second, but can you restate what it was?
Is to appoint Audrey Dominguez in the advisory capacity for the audit committee.
Okay, Commissioner Davis,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
No.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
No.
Motion fails.
So we want to do this down, or you want to wait till the next meeting?
If you want to proffer a name. I don't have.
Yeah, I just said
anyone.
Mr. Hepburn.
I was just trying to ask a question, Mr. Mayor. Is that possible?
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
No, no.
Vice Mayor. Ms. Leah, go
I
ahead.
think the only question I wanted to ask was why was he taken off? I just never heard the answer to that. Why was he removed?
Research was done that he was not a resident of the city. He did not meet the requirements.
Okay, so now we just found out it's not a requirement, right? So,
Well, listen,
just-
guidelines, so I guess we just not follow guidelines. That's fine. Whatever the commission's will.
but our city attorney just.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
The man has a lot of good questions, asking for reports, and there was a big debate in the audit committee about whether or not some audit committee member has a authority to ask for reports, financial reports. That's what
That's not true.
I know of outside of just that, whatever the manager just proffered. But that was the thing. He had a lot of good questions. Simple as that. So that's the answer in terms of why. So we can reappoint him or we can proffer someone else.
To Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner
You
Taylor.
said, okay, thank you. The manager said, no, I think that somebody said that it has to be at least one member of the commission.
Yes, and I am that member.
Okay.
And then I'm in chair.
Can we appoint one of us on the board as a placeholder until the perfect fit comes available? Is that possible?
That they will serve as that advisor. It's,
I
we
understand what the
don't, we
board
were
is.
not having a meeting before October 1st. I doubt it. Is the RFP coming back before then or anything like that? I doubt it is. Or no, we have our,
Because
yeah.
it seems to be
So-
that you guys are rushing this and driving this board home. So if it's that needed right now, can we appoint one of the member of the commission? I'm aware of the duties of the board. Can we appoint one of the members of the commission as a placeholder until the perfect fit is sorted out or found? And that's a question to the attorney or the manager.
Madam Attorney.
Yes, I believe that you can.
Okay. I'm not willing to do it, but if one of my colleagues, I was gonna ask my colleague, Commissioner Davis, I was gonna ask to appoint him, or someone else that's willing to sit in that spot until until we find someone.
So what that means is that you appoint them and then you have to remove them and appoint someone else. While the other hand is to think about this and at the next commission meeting, make the appointment. So what do you want to do? Or we're going to appoint Commissioner Davis or
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Hepburn, or think about it and do it at the next
can
meeting.
can we think about it to the next meeting, please?
Got it.
Thank you.
Anyone else not in favor of that? Speak up.
No, I don't mind moving it to the next meeting, but it seems like this issue was being driven home. So if there was an urgency for it, so I asked, that's why I proffered that question. But if there's no urgency for this, then I wouldn't mind moving it to the next meeting.
I did my duty as chairman of the board, doing official board reports to notify the commission we had availability and that we need to appoint someone. That is it. And we can do it now, we can do it later. So if there's no one that's not in favor of doing it, waiting until the next meeting, then we will handle that during that time. All right, moving on to future agenda items. I have a future agenda item.
Yes, sir, please, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bass.
Just quickly, I would like to propose for an upcoming agenda, the renaming or naming of one of our public facilities in the honor of the late Commissioner Elvin Burke. And I would like your support on that.
So proposed agenda items, any second on that? All right.
You asked for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I second it.
All right, second by Vice Mayor Williams. And the motion was to name which facility?
No, I would like for us to make that decision amongst ourselves, but it would be one of our public spaces, facilities, or streets. Maybe one of the parks, one of the streets.
Oh, the street.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, either, whatever one we deem.
I think we
fitting.
got to be clear about that. We got ability to name streets, and I don't know about which facilities, but I know we can name a street. But to
We'll go for
give
a street.
the administration a directive, we need to be clear about whether or not it's going to be a street or facility.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
I like the street idea, which is the street that he lives on.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
all right, so, Mr. Manager?
would you like to just direct staff to do the research and provide options to the commission about a street or a building?
Is that what you would like, Ms. Commissioner?
That would be fine.
All right, so a motion on the floor to direct staff to do the research to identify any publicly owned facilities or streets or land after Commissioner Burke, moved by Commissioner Bass, second by Vice Mayor Williams. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Any other future agenda items?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you. Drawn from the conversation earlier, centered on the commission and the lack of a policy in place to deal with the approval and just being acknowledging the approval of sick and leave time and any time outside of that, i.e. FMLA and ADA related. I would like to put forth an agenda item that asks the attorney's office to do research relative to I guess commissions, city commissions, other cities, neighboring communities. And I guess best practices as it relates to informing us as a commission or, relative to leave time.
Mr. Mayor, just for
Madam Attorney.
thank you, just for clarification. So the commission, the city currently has an FMLA leave policy. The issue here is whether, and it's more of a staff internal issue. And I think the manager said that he was hiring somebody or looking into hiring an HR company or something. This might go along with that, because what you need right now is you need to make sure that you're actually compliant with all of the things that you are required to be to maintain in terms of records. I don't know that you have all of those things. That's really what the city needs right now. So the policy, you have a policy in place. You just didn't have anything that applied specifically to the manager. And so that's why this issue was brought to you before. It wasn't because you didn't have a policy. And in terms of ADA, it's just, it's just the reasonable accommodation. What is that? It's a federal law. It's not anything that the city is necessarily going to come up with different. You all do have an FMLA policy, however. I'm happy to, bring back, I can look at, other similarly sized cities and show you what they're doing. It's probably sort of the same, maybe. Some of them don't use necessarily sick time or vacation time first. That might be a little different. But to the extent that the manager is already looking at hiring a company? I mean, we'll do whatever you want, Commissioner Davis. I just don't want you to be disappointed, if we come back and it doesn't look like something you think it should look like.
Well, how about this? How about we examine the whole issue of PTO and that issue of leave then? Because this is a bigger problem than just the manager's time, which is still not outlined in our own policy, which is why we had a 4-hour discussion tonight.
Right.
So,
I don't-
in my opinion, instead of haphazardly targeting, why not do something universal on a policy level that applies to everyone? We say the manager leads the city. Staff has to look up to him. So set the example, create a policy. Like, I don't understand.
Right, that's
Is this
gonna
a
be-
debate or is this a future agenda? item?
Right. No, it's not a debate, sir.
understand,
I'm just
'cause
trying to make sure I bring
You
back
provide
something.
selective opinion.
Well, I take
All right,
exception to
can I-
that
can I-
because
wait,
I don't
wait,
think
wait,
I'm
wait,
doing
wait,
that.
wait.
But-
Can I clarify this really quickly?
Yeah, but I'm just
All
trying
right,
to figure
can
out
I-
what it is that you're,
Okay, can I
talking about.
clarify this? Can I please? Commissioner Davis, do you want to direct the attorney to develop policy to monitor and approve leave time for appointed officials?
Yes, that was my statement.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Any other agenda items? I would like to move that we put in place living wage ordinance within the city of Opa-locka, that all people that work for us are paid a living wage.
Mr. Mayor,
Second,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
we already have a wage study being done. It's almost completed. So we already have a complete wage study being completed that we pay a significant amount of money for. So would you like to wait to see the results of that? I'm sure it will develop a living wage for everybody.
That is a pay plan,
Yes, sir.
and the pay plan compares wages with everyone.
Yes, sir.
The idea is to ensure that anybody that's paid to do work here in the city of Opa-locka is paid a respectable living wage, and make sure that is ingrained in our laws, which is different from a pay plan. So I'm specifically focused on making sure that anyone that is paid to do work for at least 1 hour in this city is paid for that 1 hour. If they're paid more than that, can feed themselves, can clothe themselves, can put shelter to themselves based upon that hour of time. And that's what I would like to see that this city does, is pay people respectively, no matter who they are, what they do for the city. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, second by Commissioner Bass. Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, before we had, during our budget workshop, presentation from the Southern Poverty Law. I forgot the last center, I think. They are asking cities to join in on litigation in support of against HB1. I would like to make a motion for us to prepare a resolution to support that litigation. Have a second?
You said to, so, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
can
you can
you-
repeat it, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
So there is, Madam Attorney, could you provide the insight into the language of that, of the support? But I know it's to support some that litigation, but a Southern Poverty Law is HB1. Could you define that a little more clearly for me?
Well, I think you did a good job. Basically, it would be a resolution um, approving support for litigation activities underway in connection with support of, or the really defense of home rule authority through working with other cities to accomplish the trying to, and I'm trying to figure out how you'd say it, but I do have a resolution I can bring back to you. That's the bottom line. And
Yeah.
it would be a resolution, it's late and I'm tired. It's a resolution basically appointing, allowing for you all to be plaintiffs as a part of the litigation. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
legislation that was litigation that was spoken about during the budget hearing that I mentioned of, and also was sent to everyone on the commission today at 5:19 p.m. by my legislative aide.
Okay, we can certainly bring back for consideration a resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Williams. Discussion.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner
is-
Taylor.
this is a resolution to support the HB1 litigation? That's what we're voting on?
Yes, so the state of Florida has put in place HB1, which basically makes any four people come together, can be at the discretion of officers, a felony offense that people can get ran over by their cars if they're escaping a protest, and that cities cannot make modifications decreasing the police budget. Yeah, and if they do, the budget can be, edited or amended by the governor's office and supersede the city's authority. So there are cities that are across the state that are joining to fight that. And Southern Poverty Law Center is doing it pro bono on behalf of these cities. And I'm asking that we as a city of Opa-locka join in on that.
Is there a way that we can, because they offered to come do a workshop to explain it more in depth, that bill? Is that
Okay.
something that we can do
Yeah.
versus automatically supporting it without
The-
knowing what?
This is to put a future agenda item on the agenda. So this is not an approval of it at the moment. So we can have a workshop before then. We can have them come during that time to lay out their case.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes,
Mayor Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do I have any official board appointments?
Yes, before you, Mr. Mayor, you should have an application from Angelina Roberts to the Community Relations, Recreation and Activities Advisory Board. And this is individual appointment.
Have any appoint, anyone who move to appoint?
It's individual appointment. Commissioner Taylor has an appointment, Commissioner Davis has an appointment, Vice Mayor Williams has an appointment, and you, Mayor Pike, have an appointment.
Says your representative on the board. If anyone wants to appoint. Well, we can save it for another day. We can reach out to this person. All right, Hearing no appointment, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Vice Mayor Williams,
Second.
second by Commissioner Taylor. I
Third.
want to thank everyone for their patience tonight as we did the city business. It's things that we have to do. So thank you very much for joining us, and y'all have a good evening. Take care. This meeting is adjourned.